What is going on, you guys, and welcome to episode 583 of #AskGSM here today for Wednesday, January 28th, 2025. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Happy Royal Rumble week. Hope you guys are doing well. Thanks for joining in the chat. As always, for those that are coming in now, we have Rusty Rages in the chat joining us initially. Thank you so much for joining us, my friend. I appreciate it. He said, "Hello, Graham. Long time no see. Rusty, haven't seen you in a while. Thanks for joining in. I appreciate it." John Ritland is also here. He says, honestly, going live for the show is one of the best decisions for your channel as far as interactions go. Thanks, John. I appreciate it, man. First of all, thank you for joining us. Second of all, John is awesome. And third of all, I appreciate that very much. So thank you for saying that. Rusty says he also agrees with John. So great to have Rusty here, John. Thank you guys so much for joining in as we get started here, answering your questions about the Royal Rumble coming up this weekend, talking about a lot of different stuff, the road to WrestleMania 41, a little bit of AEW stuff as well. A lot of great questions already submitted. But if you're joining in live, as we have gone live now for the entire month of January, and we will continue to do so going forward, by the way, if you want to send in a question, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Usually I gather the questions Monday night, early Tuesday morning. So be sure to send those in early if you want to get your question guaranteed answered here on the show. You could also send it in on Facebook, facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews, facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Send in your question on the post. I usually put up on Tuesday nights, if not on the wall itself, or Monday nights rather. I'm so used to saying fucking Tuesdays because we had this show on Wednesdays for so long. But send those in on Facebook, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below on the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. But like I said, if you're going live here on the show, you can send in a question in the chat. If you got a question off the top of your head, you want to save it for when we're live, I can answer it here on the air if I see it and I can get to it. Hopefully, I usually do see all the questions, and if it's something that's something I can get to, and it's an appropriate answer, an appropriate question to answer here on the show, we'll definitely get to it, which 99% of the time it usually is. Rusty Rage is saying AEW is so upsetting. They just feel, I guess the best word would be lost. I completely agree. There's a lot to dissect there. He said, oh, actually, a better word is directionless, which I completely agree with, by the way. John also says Dynamite is running a 10,000 person arena with only a 2,200 setup. What is Tony Khan even doing? I ask myself that question every single week when I see these attendance numbers for Dynamite. And there's some stuff, I don't want to sit here and say it's all doom and gloom for AEW, and we'll get into the questions in a moment, some other housekeeping stuff as well. But for AEW specifically, there is some good stuff that they're doing. I mean, I answered a question about the Death Riders stuff last week or the week before. It's just fucking awful. It sucks. That's not the reason why, they're not killing the company, but it's not exactly contributing to the positive parts of that show. Let's put it that way. That and Collision as well. There is just not a whole lot of buzz surrounding the product, and there is some enjoyable stuff and segments and promos and matches that I can pick out from these AEW shows, but there's just not a whole lot. So every single week when we talk Dynamite, and I don't really talk a whole lot of AEW here on these streams just because there's really not a whole lot to talk about right now aside from the bad stuff, but there is some good stuff too, so I'll get to it. If someone were to ask me about it, if something good happens, we'll definitely discuss it. Jose Martinez, thank you for joining us in the chat. Love the Spider-Man icon. That Spider-Man show actually comes out tomorrow on Disney Plus. Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man show on Disney Plus that comes out tomorrow. I should be watching along with it starting tomorrow. So looking forward to that. But anyway, your question was, what's your opinion on the Royal Rumble 2007? I think it's a really good Rumble. I think I've only seen it maybe 2 or 3 different times. I haven't really seen it a whole lot. That is not a Rumble I will sit back and say, okay, of the 40 plus years of the Rumble, I'm going to definitely go back and watch that one. It's not. It's just not a Rumble that I would go back and watch. But it is a very good Rumble. The final 2 is arguably either the best ever or among the best ever with Shawn Michaels and Undertaker. I will definitely say that. I just feel like they killed it in the final stretch there. But it's a good Rumble. I think it's a very good Rumble, and Taker was the right winner that year. John said, in regards to movies, do you think Thunderbolts will do well or flop? I'm also at 17 movies already for this year. That's crazy. I think it'll do well. I think any Marvel movie, the Marvels didn't exactly do well about a year ago. I think this will do better than that. Someone asked me about Thunderbolts. It might have been you, John, or someone else in the last, week or two. They asked me, do I think, how will it compare to other Marvel movie releases, as of late? It won't do nearly as well, obviously, as the Deadpool and Wolverine movie that came out last summer, but it'll definitely do better than the Marvels. I don't think it'll be among, the worst that they've done, but I do see it doing well. Rusty Rage has also said the fact that they had to move Grand Slam from the arena they were going to run to a really tiny venue and then change it from a pay-per-view to a TV special. Oh boy. He also said the next year's Rumble '08. Yeah, I completely agree. He said it's one of my favorites. The '07 Rumble hurts me because HBK lost. I was so upset. We'll get to the '08 Rumble. Spoiler alert, the title of this video, obviously my top 5 favorite Royal Rumble matches ever. The Royal Rumble itself, and not matches on the show, but that's actually another question that we'll get to. The '08 Rumble is among them. And I started watching wrestling like officially a couple months after that. So I still have a nostalgic like attachment to that show, the venue, the setup, the scene of return, but even the overall Rumble has a great vibe to it. Great crowd. I really like the '08 Rumble. And John also mentioned in the chat, but Graham, the '07 Rumble had Kali stumbling around like a poorly constructed Jenga tower. Kali is in a lot of those early Rumbles. Not early Rumbles, but like he's in '07. Pretty sure he's in '08. He might be in the, I'm pretty sure he's in the '08 Rumble. '09, 2010, 2011. He's in a lot of those Rumbles doing exactly that. He made a couple of Rumble returns as well. I think he actually returned the 2018 Greatest Royal Rumble, right, that they did in Saudi Arabia. I'm pretty sure he made a Greatest Royal Rumble return on that show. But anyway, a couple things I do want to mention before we get into the other questions. I mentioned how you can send in questions to the show in advance. Emmanuel saying actually in the chat, forgot to ask questions, but I do have some time before work to be here for a bit. Emmanuel, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. If you got any questions before you head out to work, first of all, hope you have a great day. Second of all, be sure to send them in. I'll get to them as quickly as I can so you can listen before you head to work and I can get your questions answered. But do want to mention a couple things here before we get going. I will be going live on Thursday for Wrestle Rant Radio here on the channel. Hashtag AskGSM won't be affected by this because this is obviously on Tuesdays, but next Thursday, or this coming Thursday, I'm sorry, which would be January 30th, I'm flying out to Indianapolis for Royal Rumble weekend. So the schedule, I think, as far as the channel goes, is going to look like this. I'm flying for most of Thursday. I'm going to be up extremely fucking early, getting to the airport. Alexis dropping me off. Thank you, Alexis. She's not coming with me. I'm flying solo for this one. So she's bringing me to the airport. I'll be flying for most of Thursday. Getting to Indianapolis probably in the afternoon at some point, late afternoon, early evening. I'm hoping to go live if the fucking Wi-Fi will work with us. If it doesn't, I'll just record and put up a show. But what I'm hoping to do is go live for Wrestle Rant Radio, doing Royal Rumble predictions, maybe reviewing quickly Saturday night's main event, talking about Raw, any other news that comes up in the next week, in the next couple days. We'll do that on Thursday live from the hotel in Indianapolis. So that's something to look forward to. If you're around on Thursday in the evening Eastern time, join us. I'll be in Indianapolis at that point, and hopefully we could chat some more Royal Rumble, predictions, preview, all that other sort of shit. So on Friday, nothing should really change. That should be the excerpts from Wrestle Rant Radio. If you miss it live on Thursday, you can check out the excerpts, including my full predictions for the pay-per-view, coming out on Friday. On Saturday, hoping to have at least one or two of the interviews that I'm doing this Friday at the junket. I don't know how many people I'm going to be able to get to. There's a lot more people that go to these things now and a lot less talent they have available. So I'm not exactly sure how many interviews I'll get to on Friday that I could put up on Saturday, but that's something to look forward to. Another Wrestle Rant React short. I'm starting to do a little bit more of those, my quick movie and show reviews. I did one on Marvel's What If Season 3 the other day, so check that out. Another one of those probably coming up at some point this weekend. And Sunday, hashtag GSM for GM also going up tomorrow as well here on the channel on Wednesday. So that's the current schedule. I will be at the Royal Rumble on Saturday, obviously. I hope to be at SmackDown as well in the city, in the area on Friday night. So, I probably won't do any live reactions that I can record and stuff just because my phone has no fucking storage. Usually I usually use Alexis's phone for that sort of thing, but she's not coming with me, so I probably can't record any live reactions on the phone. So that's coming up this weekend. Today, though, I will mention this for those joining live or listening after the fact before Tuesday night. The Royal Rumble game is back for the 13th consecutive year. I know many of you in the chat right now have actually participated in the past. John, I'm pretty sure, Rusty, you've been in there as well, among other people. But yeah, we're going to be bringing it back this week for the 13th consecutive installment, which I'll look back at the chat in a second. But we will be checking it out. We'll be, doing the signups for the Royal Rumble game coming up tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So follow me on Twitter. Check me out over there if you aren't already, obviously. I'll put up the link for where you can, sign up for spots. You can either tweet me your numbers for the men's and women's Rumble pools. You can send it in on the post on WrestleRant.com. The link should be up there on the homepage when you first go to WrestleRant.com. If you scroll down a little bit, the link should be right there. It's under columnist corner. The comments are closed now on that post, but they will be open when we go live with the signups at 8 p.m. So if you want to join in, if you participate, really it's just for fun. But if you do want to participate and you win either the men's Rumble or the women's Rumble or both, which has never happened before in any singular year, we've had people win twice over the course of a number of years, but not in the same year. You can win a free T-shirt. One of the T-shirts we have now available over ProWrestlingTees.com, a WrestleRant shirt, a WrestleRant Halloween shirt, or a WrestleRant Christmas shirt, whatever the fuck you want. I'll give that to you for free. So if you win the game starting tonight, sign-ups start at 8 p.m. Eastern time. So check back with me on that tonight on the socials, on WrestleRant.com. Hope you guys can participate and potentially even win. So I think there was all of that. I mentioned Thursday. I mentioned today how you guys can send in questions. And actually, obviously, first and foremost, if you haven't already, please be sure to like this video, drop a comment on this video with your questions for next week and for this week if you're in the chat. Thank you for joining us. I'll get to the chat in a second. But yeah, be sure to, like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell button to be notified every time we go live here on the channel. We go live Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Not this week, though. Saturdays. Thursday, the stream will be later than usual. Saturday, no Saturday stream this week. I'm going to SmackDown, but I can't review SmackDown here on the channel because I'll be at another event. I'll be at another commitment most likely on Saturday morning before the pay-per-view, before Royal Rumble. So no stream Saturday, but usually we do go live Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. The best way to be notified when we do go live is if you have the bell icon on, you'll be notified every time we go live. So please be sure to do that. I would appreciate it. Checking back in the chat here real quickly before we get going with these questions from YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. John Ritland said he was in the 08 Rumble and number 3 or 4, and MSG showered him with "You Can't Wrestle" chants. Yeah, he was in the Rumble early on. I have yet to rewatch that Rumble this year. I try to rewatch it at least once a year because it's such a fun Rumble to me. I forgot that MSG showered him with "You Can't Wrestle" chants. That's crazy. Jose says, thank you. I actually watch your videos. Oh, thank you, Jose. I appreciate that. Also, another question. What do you think would have happened if Cena turned heel in 2012? It would have very much intrigued me, but sadly, it never happened. I think that would have been awesome. I was in the same boat. You can go back and check out videos I've done here on the channel back from 2011, or don't, because they're not great. But I was, boasting, hitting that drum, whatever the fucking expression is, for Cena to go heel for the match with The Rock at WrestleMania 28. Obviously, it worked out well with either of them turning heel. But, if Cena did go heel for that match, coming out of that match, that would have been very intriguing. And honestly, it wouldn't have been a scenario where it's like, even today I see a lot of people say, oh, turn Cody Rhodes heel. But you don't have someone to replace him right now. You have a lot of great baby faces, but like a top baby face to represent the company. That's what you need right now because Cody has the reactions. He has the merch sales. He's out there doing the media stuff. You would need someone to replace him. And Rollins is not that guy. He's already been that guy. Randy Orton's not that guy. LA Knight, maybe. I don't really see them pushing him at that level, so probably not. I'm just trying to think of other people on the roster. I mean, Damian Priest, maybe, but Cody Rhodes plays that role so exceptionally well. He is what they wanted in John Cena 15, 20 years ago. He is, and he's not getting booed either. And if there are sections of the crowd that boo him, it's not as loudly or as obvious as it was with Cena and other top guys they've pushed, a la Roman Reigns 10, 15 years ago. So they're not turning Cody anytime soon. But I know that wasn't the question. Your question was about Cena. If they were to have turned Cena back in 2012, they had CM Punk. CM Punk was just so fucking popular at that point. You could have easily had CM Punk replace John Cena as the top babyface in that company. He was already selling the merch. He was already getting the reactions. It was A1 and, or 1A rather, 1A and 1B with Cena and Punk respectively. You could have turned Cena heel and they would have been totally fine. But Vince got cold feet, never happened. And it's merely a what if now in retrospect. He also said, do you think we could get a Cena heel turn now that it's Cena's farewell tour? I've seen this question posed a couple different times. The answer is no. I don't think it's going to happen. Could it happen? Anything's possible. But it would be funny if he turned heel now for the simple fact that he is more beloved now in the wrestling world than he has ever been before. Like almost every time he comes out, it is not 0% boos. I can't imagine how many people. I've been to a lot of the shows that he's been at, okay, that he's returned at or been to or whatever. he doesn't really get booed in 2024, 2025. He doesn't really get booed anymore. It's not 2015, 2016, even 2010, 2009. Those would have been the years. Even a Cena heel turn 10 years ago, I think would have worked. Not that it wouldn't work now, but so many people want to cheer this man on his way out and respect his contributions to the business. If Triple H was in charge a decade ago, I think we would have gone a heel Cena run. Absolutely. But in 2025, as he's winding down, probably not. But it would be intriguing, though, for sure. I just don't really know what that would look like in 2025. I don't even know if he would play the role well. My thing always was with Cena was that, especially in 2011, 2012, I said this 15 fucking years ago, and I've said this, I tweeted it a million times. Even if heel Cena did not work, you could have easily changed him back to being a babyface within a month, within 6 months. Now, it might sound easier than, said than done, because you have to have merchandise made, and you kind of, would it really ruin his goodwill at the audience if he was a heel for 6 months? I don't think so. People would have either forgiven, quote unquote, him for that in storyline if it was like a kid thing, not liking Cena anymore. They would have gone over it very quickly. They would have forgotten about it, moved on, whatever. Like the Becky Lynch thing, I think a lot of people forget. Obviously, yeah, she was a heel 3 years ago. But when she was popular, she actually got even more popular because she turned heel in late 2018. That heel run, quote unquote, wasn't really a heel run because she was getting cheered every fucking week. She was only a heel for a couple of months, and people quickly forgot about that because she became the man soon after, so it didn't really matter. I just don't think a heel Cena run would work now, though, in 2025. Rusty Rages says in the chat, my top 5, Royal Rumble 08, Royal Rumble 2016, Royal Rumble 2023 for one reason, he says. Rumble 95 and Rumble 96, I think we know why the last two are on my list, LOL. Those are some good ones. One of those or two of those might be on my list. I'll get to that later, but those are some solid Rumbles. I am intrigued as to why the Royal Rumble 2023 is on your list, though. You said for one reason. Was it because you were there, maybe? I was at that one as well. Those were two good Rumbles, the men's and the women's. Emmanuel A. asked, on the topic of Royal Rumble 2008, did you ever see/hear when CM Punk on the Fox WWE Backstage show said that he was planning to win the Rumble until Cena returned early? Yeah, I remember him saying that on that WWE Fox Backstage show. That doesn't even make any fucking sense. I mean, not saying that, okay, if Cena did not come back, who would have won that Rumble? That's a great question. They may have told him that. I can't imagine Punk would have actually won the Rumble. He had just lost the ECW Championship to Chavo Guerrero. CM Punk only won Money in the Bank at WrestleMania. That's funny that he said that. I'm not saying he's lying, obviously, but it's funny that he says that because the only reason why he won Money in the Bank that year was because Jeff Hardy got suspended. So plans changed and he won there. Plans changed to the Rumble and he didn't win there. But I still don't think he would have won that Rumble if Cena did not come back. Triple H, I feel like, absolutely would have won that fucking Rumble. They were already telling this story of him being back in chase mode for that championship. He was involved in the WWE title match at WrestleMania anyway because he won an Elimination Chamber match at No Way Out the following month. And then Cena cashed in his title shot early, which was stupid, and they wanted to do a triple threat at Mania. That's where Orton retained, blah, blah, blah. Triple H definitely would have won. Who was in the world title match at Mania? The Undertaker? They could have had Taker win 2 years in a row. Taker was not involved in the Final Four. He got chucked out. I forgot by who. Maybe by Batista. I don't remember. But, I think it would have made more sense for it to be Triple H or Taker since they were involved in the world title matches anyway. Who would CM Punk have faced? He was never going to face Edge. Edge and Taker were already feuding on and off at that point. And he was not going to, was he going to face fucking Chavo Guerrero for the ECW title at WrestleMania, which they also did not end up doing, by the way. They ended up giving that spot to Kane, who won the belt in like 10 seconds. I don't believe that. I'm not saying he's lying. I'm just saying I think they may have told him that, or that may have been brought up to him, but I doubt that was the actual plan. There's no fucking way. Let's see. Rusty Rages also says Cena going heel has passed this by. I agree. Matthew Rodriguez, thank you for joining us, Matthew. I appreciate it. Thank you for joining in the chat. He says, question, what are your fantasy AEW interviews, male and female? It's a good question. I haven't interviewed a whole lot of AEW people. I'm not really close with the, PR team over there. I know a few of those people. I actually interviewed on a whim because I did a Shield piece, one of the proudest articles I feel like I've ever written. One of the articles I'm most proud of, rather, was when I interviewed Seth Rollins. I didn't interview him I interviewed him for other stuff, but I got quotes for him for that article. And I interviewed Jon Moxley for that article. And that was on the 10-year anniversary of the Shield. You can find it. I've shared it before. It's on Bleacher Report as well from, 2.5 years ago. and I got to talk to Moxley for like 30 minutes. And the guy just talks and talks and talks, mostly all about the Shield. And it was only really supposed to go like 10, 15 minutes. We spoke for like 30. He just doesn't give a fuck. He was a very fascinating interview. That interview is actually not here on the channel, but I will post it at some point. I just never got around to it. But yeah, he was awesome, and I think that was when he was actually the AEW World Champion. That was right before he dropped the belt to MJF at Full Gear that year. So if I never interview another AEW person ever again, I've interviewed everyone in the Shield, but I got to interview Ambrose Moxley when he was in AEW as the World Champion. So that's a pretty cool note to end on if it only started and ended there. But I've interviewed other AEW people too. I interviewed QT Marshall years ago, Matt Hardy. But like fantasy AEW interviews, of people that are there now, I mean, there's Ospreay. MJF, I just feel like would be an asshole. I mean, he's such a great interview if you play along with it, but I'm not like the type of person that would really play along with it. I would not be entertaining in that environment. But MJF would be interesting. Probably Kenny Omega, to be honest with you. I feel like I've heard he's a really great interview. He's a really down-to-earth dude. He'd have some really good answers, I feel like. Ospreay's another I'm just thinking of like big names they have over there. Adam Page, I feel like is kind of reserved. Probably Kenny Omega. For female, I've already interviewed Mercedes a whole bunch of times when she was in WWE. That's a good question. Probably not Britt Baker, because I feel like any of the questions I would have would not be answered. Because it's about all like behind the scenes stuff, not like relationship stuff. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking like the heat she has and like where the fuck have you been? Do you have what's up with like you and Jamie Hayter? Why have we not seen any resolution for that on TV? Those questions obviously really couldn't be asked or answered, so probably not Britt Baker. I don't know if it's really a dream interview, but like Willow, I feel like would be really cool to talk to, or Chris Statlander. Who else do they have in that women's division? Mariah May, I feel like, is always in character. Toni Storm seems cool. I've actually interviewed Toni Storm many years ago, and she was cool then. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm not really sure. I'm trying to think of who else in that company I would like to talk to, but let's go Willow. I feel like Willow would be just a ray of sunshine to chat with for a little bit. Backtracking a little bit here. Let's see. A lot of people joining in the chat. Thank you so much. We will get through these chats quickly, then I'll get back to the questions that you guys sent in ahead of time. I do spend a lot of time on each question, so that's why we're still here looking at the chat. But Rusty said if he was going to go heel, it would have been like 5+ years ago. I agree. I got real damn close to winning last. You got real damn close to winning the Royal Rumble game. I see what you're talking about. I see what you mean. Emmanuel, yeah, Rumble game. Let's go, baby. Yeah, participate tonight. Sign-ups are at 6 p.m. Eastern. Rusty says I picked Punk and said number 27. And he was 28, and he finished second to Cody. Yeah, you were close. I remember that. Now that you bring that up, I totally remember that. John also said, in regards to the upcoming Rumble, imagine if they had Logan Paul win to face Gunther, the firestorm that would be nuts. I mean, dude, you say that is absolutely a likely outcome. I do not want to see Logan Paul win. I could see them doing Gunther and Logan Paul. They teased at that Netflix Raw kickoff thing at HQ that I was at last month. They teased it on Monday night. You could do that match, which I don't really want to see at Mania, but you can do that match even without Logan Paul winning the Rumble. That doesn't mean he won't win, though. He could absolutely fucking win, especially if they have, like, iShow Speed in there and they have him interacting with Logan Paul. Like, what the fuck is this shit about? But I have no desire to see that. I'm sure it would do crazy numbers online. Maybe he's streaming while he's in the Rumble, first time ever. Who gives a fuck? Who cares? I certainly don't care. I'm sure there are people who do, though, but, whatever. Anyway, Alexis is here. She said, finally, thank you for joining us, Alexis. I appreciate it, as always. Daniel Malcolm, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it, my man. Great to see you in the chat. He said, I like seeing Cody with a bit of an edge. Yeah, Cody with an edge on Monday was great. Listen, as I was talking to someone about this on Twitter on Monday night after Raw, they are absolutely slowly but surely planting the seeds for Homelander Cody. For heel Homelander Cody. It is not coming next month. It is not coming at the end of the year. It may not be here in the next 2-3 years. But when it happens, you can point back to each of these moments and be like, wow, that was a moment. And obviously, it was more of an edge than it was a heel turn. It wasn't heel Cody on Monday. But like you could point back to these moments and say, yeah, that's when the heelness, the asshole in Cody really shined through. A completely different Cody than what we've been used to in the last couple of years in WWE. That would be interesting, but yeah, Cody with an edge, Cody with a cope, so to speak, on Monday night during Raw was cool. John Ritland said, when I said the videos in 2011 weren't great, he said, well, Grim, you got to find your groove. And like any content creator, it takes time. And look how far you've come through tons of hard work. Thank you, John. I appreciate that. But yeah, seriously, though, a lot of those early videos are not great. But it is cool to see how far we've come since then. And John, you've obviously done a lot of great work as well. You've also come very far. We all have. So keep up the great work. If you haven't already subscribed to John, please subscribe to him. He does great video and movie and show reviews, wrestling reviews. John's the best. Emmanuel A. says, related to 2012 Cena, apparently one of the plans for the Rumble was Cena winning, but then having to choose between a world title match or The Rock. I don't remember hearing that. Where did that come from? I've never heard that before. 2012 Cena. So if he won the Rumble that year, and he won in 2013, he would either have to choose between facing a world champion or The Rock. He wasn't even in the Rumble. I mean, I'm glad. In retrospect, I was thinking, like, why the fuck isn't he in the Rumble? But they already made the match with The Rock, so it would have been stupid. I mean, he could have pulled double duty. They weren't doing that back then because Mania wasn't 2 nights at that point. They could have easily had, him pull double duty. I mean, that would have been fucking stupid. What they did instead was a lot better. Sheamus winning the Rumble, which I didn't like at the time. I really wanted Jericho to win. I was very frustrated about that as a, junior in high school, sophomore in high school, whatever it was. I think I was a junior in high school at that point. I was very pissed about that. But yeah, that was, the 2012 Rumble's okay. I really want, the funny thing about the 2012 Rumble, anytime anyone mentions that Rumble, it's not one of my favorite Rumbles. I didn't love that Rumble, but it had a couple cool surprises. The first thing I think of is that I really wanted to buy that Rumble. I bought my first ever Rumble a couple years before that, which I'll get to a little bit later on. But with the 2012 Rumble, I wanted to buy that one. And I wasn't going to buy it myself. I asked my mom for it, and she was like, no, I'm not going to do it, which I totally understood. These shows are like fucking $60. You don't know if they're going to be good. She wasn't really thinking about that. It was like $60, and she's like, I'm not doing that. So then the Rumble happened, and I was complaining to my brother about it either that night or the next day, and she heard me complaining about it, and she goes, well, I'm glad we didn't buy it then. I'm like, I guess you're right, Mom. I guess you're right. Yes, John is indeed here, Alexis. Matthew Rodriguez says, the only way Cena turns heel is by doing a feud with Karrion Kross. I don't think we get Cena and Karrion Kross this year, but Karrion Kross playing mind games with Cena would indeed be intriguing. There's so many other stories you could tell with Cena during his farewell tour. I don't think Kross would lead that list, but it's an option. Rusty says, a quick AEW question. What are your thoughts on the Death Riders? I said this at the top of the video. I think the whole storyline sucks. I think there's a lot of talented people in that group. It's basically Blackpool Combat Club 2.0, which I liked. I liked that group. But the promos make no sense. They're directionless. They're meandering. The matches are dull, riddled with interference. They dominate these shows doing stupid angles like the kidnapping bullshit. It sucks. The Death Rider stuff is fucking awful. It is somehow worse than the Elite Takeover shit that they were doing early last year. What other heel group did they have last year? It was the Elite. It was the Death Riders. What was the other group? Was it the Jericho one? That too also is fucking terrible, and they're still doing that. But who else did we have last year? Didn't we have the Elite and then like another group? Like it was, maybe, I don't know. Maybe it was just those two. I think I'm thinking of something else, but yeah, not a fan of the Death Riders. That shit is just awful. They got to end that shit soon. That shit fucking sucks. I'm sorry. Daniel in the chat said Becky also turned on Charlotte, which got her cheered like she was 98 Austin. I guess people did not want to. Charlotte, they thought was going to be the babyface. That's what they said. Charlotte will be cheered, they said. Becky will be booed, they said. That's not what happened. I was there. I was there for the first SmackDown after SummerSlam 2018. That was actually the first WWE show that I brought Alexis to after we started dating. And it was a fun show, but it was funny seeing them. Like, they wanted us to boo Becky so bad because she was out there cutting a heel promo and pooping on the audience, and she got cheered out of the building. It was really funny. Emmanuel A. said, I think Cena himself has said that when the 2012 heel turn was being discussed, he told Vince he would be going all in as a heel and stop doing charity work. Oh, God. That's a real heel move. I think I remember that. I think he told Jericho that on his podcast years ago. But, yeah, Cena was really all in. He had new gear made. He had new music made. He had mentioned at one point. That would have been, like, very fascinating. I don't know if that shit ever got released as far as what the gear would have looked like or what the music would have been, but I'd be very fascinated to find out. Emmanuel A. said, I think Cena, or no, I already answered that question. Sorry, I already wrote that one. Daniel said, headed to Indy tomorrow. Excited for my first Rumble. Oh, Daniel, that's very exciting. I hope our paths cross at some point. I will be Indy I will be in Indy starting Thursday. I'll be there Friday, Saturday, and leaving Sunday a little bit later on in the day. So if you're at the show at the Royal Rumble on Saturday, I'll be in the area beforehand. So if you're outside the building, let me know. Hit me up here on YouTube or on Twitter or whatever, and I'll be at the building beforehand. So I'm hoping to see as many people as I can. A lot of people that I talk to, like on Twitter and online and shit over the years, that I've never met in person until I meet them at these shows. That's some of my favorite parts of these weekends. So anyway, hope you have a great time at the show. It should be a fun time this weekend. Rusty saying Punk returning. Oh wait, this is how bad my brain is. That was the 2024 Royal Rumble. LOL. Yeah, that was last year. Alexa said, what matches would you not want to see Cena in? I mean, not against any like fucking bums on the roster. Here's one match that I was kind of joking, like, oh, they could run this back, have him get his win back over this man. Cena in Theory. At this point, I care so little about them going back to that I feel like that would be just a fucking waste. Save Cena for the bigger matches against people like the Breakers and the even LA Knights and the Codys and the Punks and even like a Roman. I don't really care to see Cena and Roman again, to be honest with you. We've already seen it a few times. Roman's 2-0 against him. We don't really need to see Cena beating Roman Reigns. That's a match I don't really care to see. Cena and Roman, I don't really give a shit. Alexis's brother actually said the other day, Sheamus and Cena, because they have such a decorated history, which I kind of forgot about, like that being a possibility, but that would be a match that I would, not mind seeing. Oh yeah, Trips was definitely one of the OA Rumble, I agree. Emmanuel said, in fairness to Punk's claim, Edge was the one who cost him the ECW championship before the Rumble, so he could have feuded with La Familia as a whole and gone for Edge. The problem with that, though, is that Taker and Edge was already... There is not a doubt in my fucking mind that Edge and Taker was the Mania match, because who would Taker have faced at WrestleMania 2008? In 2009, you could say he could... I mean, I know he had the streak, but in 2009, you could have said, oh yeah, Vladimir Kozlov, because they were pushing Kozlov. Kozlov pinned Taker on SmackDown clean at one point, which was incredibly fucking ridiculous, among other stuff. But in 2008, Taker was not really doing anything aside from feuding with Edge. That was the long-term story. Edge also cost Taker the World Championship at Survivor Series, so that was the match to do. I just can't imagine they would have done Edge and Punk over Edge and Taker, who didn't have another obvious opponent for that event. John Ritland said Shawn kicked Taker out of the 2008 Rumble, and then Shawn got dumped right after. Oh yeah, that's what it was. I totally forgot about that. Rusty said, let's see, Shawn Shuck Taker. Yeah, that's what John said as well. Yeah, the storytelling, because they went back to that in the 2008 Rumble from the 2007 Rumble, and they went back to that for their match in 2009. A lot of great long-term storytelling, even at that point with Taker and Shawn for that few years stretch. John said, or he's talking to Alexis there. Matthew Rodriguez said, question what AEW stars would be perfect to win the men's and women's Rumbles if they were in WWE? Good question. I mean, really, any of them. MJF winning the men's Rumble to face Cody at Mania would be fucking perfect. Let's go with that. And then for the women's Rumble, probably Mercedes Moné. I mean, just because she's never won a Rumble before, she's been in a bunch of them. Probably should have won in 22. Probably would have had Ronda Rousey not come back. But yeah, Mercedes Moné, Sasha Banks, I feel like would be a good fit. And then she could face Rhea Ripley. I don't think we ever saw Mercedes and Ripley one-on-one. So that would... I know she's faced her in like a triple threat, but one-on-one. We never got that match. And then on SmackDown, who's the champion on SmackDown right now? Tiffany Stratton. Oh, yeah, that's another match we didn't see. So yeah, probably Sasha Banks or Mercedes Moné or whatnot. The Average Grunt, thank you for joining us, my man. I appreciate it. Said, hey, hope you're doing well, Graham. Hey, Average Grunt, thank you for joining us. You sent in some good questions about AEW. I will get to them later on. I have not answered a single fucking question yet. We are 35 minutes in, and I have not answered a single question that people sent in advance, just because I'm so preoccupied with the chat. I will get through these as quickly as I can, and then we'll get back to the scheduled questions. I just don't want to miss anything here in the chat because there's so many of you tuning in. I appreciate it. Let's see. Matthew said, yeah, GSM, if you do interview Timeless Tony Storm, you need to mention to her your thoughts on the creative of Bray Wyatt. Oh, on the creative mind of Bray Wyatt, because Tony Storm is also a awesome creative genius. Yeah. I don't know if they ever worked together, because Tony Storm was in WWE for a few years. Not worked together on TV, but like if they ever really interacted. She was only on the main roster for a couple of months. I think in the couple of months that she was on the main roster, wasn't Bray Wyatt fired? So I don't think she would have ever even interacted with Bray Wyatt. But yeah, they're both very creative, that's for sure. Rusty said a lot of AEW fans go, but Cody didn't want to turn heel in AEW, so why would he be in WWE? Well, here's your answer. It's got to fit the story. The only answer he was ever going to turn to have to go heel was because the fans wanted it. That's not a good enough reason. I mean, he really should have turned heel in AEW. Cody was basically a babyface masquerading. I'm sorry, he was a heel masquerading as a babyface. He should have absolutely gone heel. The fans wanted it, especially in AEW. You're wider, like you don't have to deal with the charity shit and stuff like that. Like in WWE, you don't have sponsors or at least as many as WWE. They could have absolutely gotten away with turning Cody heel. He didn't want to. Tony Khan didn't let him. Like he didn't make him, and then Cody left anyway. So Tony Khan missed out, I guess. They probably should have turned him heel. I don't know if he would have stayed. I doubt it, but at least it would have been interesting. Let's see. John Ritland said, I appreciate the praise for the videos, for what videos I do. The movie reviews tend to get more attention than ever I expected, even from some of the cast and crew. Yeah, John has told me that. That is crazy. Yeah, definitely check out John's stuff. He does great work. Emmanuel said, about to leave, but have you read Becky's autobiography? She said WWE expected the cheers for the SummerSlam turn because heel crowd, but still thought people would eventually boo her. No, I did not know that. I actually have the book right behind me. The book is literally on this table right here behind me. I got a copy of it ahead of time because I interviewed Becky last year about the book. I have yet to finish the book. I just don't have time to read as much time as I would like. I'm still getting through it. I'm hoping to bring the book with me to read. But to answer your question, I did not know that. Or, I mean, I think I knew that. I just kind of forgot from hearing that elsewhere. After the book had come out, she was talking about the book and stuff like that. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. WWE absolutely thought she would still get booed in the long term because, heel audience, it's Brooklyn, blah, blah, blah. And then the next week, they still cheered her. The next week, they still cheered her. The next week, they still cheered her. They didn't know what the fuck was going on. Emmanuel, thank you for joining us, though. If you are taking off, thank you so much for joining us for a brief bit. I appreciate it. Hope to see you on a future stream. So have a great day, my man. Jose said, and I'll answer some questions after this, he said, if I remember correctly, Cena mentioned that his outfit for being a heel, would have been a singlet with Fear My Name on the bottom. Surprisingly, there's a preview of Cena wearing it on a Bella Twin show. I saw all the Bella Twin show shit, so I probably saw it and I totally forgot. Yeah, no, that would have been interesting. A singlet, Cena with a singlet again would have been... Did he ever wear a singlet? I was going to say, I said again, but... I don't think he debuted with a singlet. I think he had like the shorts on, like the Ruthless Aggression Cena. He only had shorts on. I'm not sure he ever wore a singlet, but that would have been interesting. Rusty also said, question, what are your thoughts on there only being 4 matches for the Rumble this year? I love it. I think it's great. The Rumbles are going to go at least an hour, I would imagine. So that's 2 hours right there. You got a world title match, a ladder match, which will also not be short, and then a 2 out of 3 falls match. So there really only should be 4 matches. Even if that match was not 2 out of 3 falls, I still like the 4-match format. They did that for the Rumble last year. They may have done that for the Rumble in 2023. No, I think they had 5 in 2023 because they had the 2 Rumbles, Bray and Knight. They had Bianca and Alexa, and then Owens and Roman. So they had 5 matches that year. 4 to 5 for a Rumble makes sense. They should really only have 5 matches for a pay-per-view anyway, if not 6. But for a Rumble pay-per-view where the Rumble matches go long, they absolutely should be only, going with a 4-match card. That definitely makes the most sense, regardless of the stipulations in the other matches. Daniel Malcolm said, to be fair, we did get heel Cena on Total Diva / Bella's LOL. Dude came off like such a dick. Yes, he fucking did. I joke about that. RJ and I joke about that all the time. We constantly send each other that clip of, I think Nikki Bella was like making dinner or something like that. And Cena was like, what are you doing? And she's like, well, I was making you dinner. I think they just started living together at that point. She had just moved in with him. And he's like, no, I want to go out to eat. And she's like, well, I thought it'd be nice if I made a home-cooked meal. Like, we don't really do that often. And he said, well, no, I was expecting to go out to eat. I don't really want you cooking in my counters. Like, she's doing a nice thing. And he's being a complete fucking asshole. He's like really like strict about that sort of stuff. I don't know if he still is or if he's cooled off about it. I'm not sure. It was just really funny. You'd have to go back and find the clip. It's on Twitter, YouTube, whatever. Cena was so fucking funny on those shows. He was one of the recurring highlights on Total Divas and Total Bellas. Jose said, and he actually never wore a singlet. He mentioned that hats and armbands would have been taken off and he would have had only like 6 singlets. That's interesting. John Ritland said, got to bounce because my shift is getting busy, but keep up the great work, and I'll tune in weekly when I'm able to. John, thank you so much for joining us, my man. I appreciate it. Your contributions, whether it be sending in questions early or joining us now are always appreciated. Thank you so much. Have a great day, my dude. And I'll catch you on the flip side. Rusty also said, I honestly think 5 to 6 matches is the sweet spot unless it's a Mania. Then we can have 7 or 8 matches a night. No, I totally agree. For the Rumble, it really only should have 4, though, because the Rumbles are at least an hour with entrances and shit and whatnot, post-match stuff. I think 4 for the Rumble is perfect. But for the other shows, I agree 5 to 6. And then for Mania, 7 to 8. Probably closer to 8 a night, but 7 is also ideal in my book. So to the questions that people sent in, Jose said he also mentioned for his perspective of being a heel, he would have done the complete opposite of hustle, loyalty, and respect. Yeah, that makes total sense. So let's get to these other questions that people sent in ahead of time, and then I can also answer some stuff in the chat. We'll look back in the chat a little bit later on. But Jordan B. from YouTube sent this in. He goes, besides Big E, what other feuds would you like to see Kofi and Xavier get into? I know that this is a weird answer, but I'm going to go with R-Truth, he said. The reason I'm going with Truth is because of his history with both Kofi and Xavier. They can mention Xavier Woods debuted for TNA at Bound for Glory 07, teaming with R-Truth, and also how Xavier Woods debuted on the main roster on the November 18th, 2013 edition of Raw by once again teaming with R-Truth. Of course, Truth and Kofi, they have history. They were tag team champions together in 2012. Maybe this potential feud could make R-Truth get a little serious for once. So he's asking what other feuds I would like to see Kofi and Xavier have as heels, and if R-Truth is a good one. It would work because they're so hated right now and R-Truth is so beloved. I am kind of over, honestly. I like R-Truth. He's very entertaining. I'm kind of over him being a regular fixture on the show. Just because we saw that Judgment Day thing. The Judgment Day thing was great. They paid it off perfectly at WrestleMania. He got a token tag title run out of it, and it was fine. There's no real reason to feature him consistently when there's so many other people on these shows, Raw, SmackDown, soon to be called up from NXT, that you could use in these spots instead. You don't really need R-Truth on the show feuding with them when it could be someone like a Rey Mysterio is also on the older side, but the War Raiders, we've seen that before, but not with R-Truth with the New Day as heels. The New Day could be heels and the War Raiders being baby faces, or I almost said Viking Raiders, War Raiders. I got to get used to that because they were Viking Raiders for so long. Having them run it back for the World Tag Team titles makes sense. I don't know. I mean, there's really any number of people. If Big E's not cleared anytime soon, which I don't think he will be, could he come out in the Rumble this weekend and Kofi and Xavier do a spot with him? Sure. I don't see that happening. But yeah, there's any number of people that they could work with. I don't really think R-Truth would be the answer because you're saying that would get R-Truth serious for once. If they were going to make R-Truth into a serious superstar, they would have done so during the Judgment Day feud, and they didn't. And it worked out well. I'm being a comedy guy. He was great, got his moment at Mania and whatnot, but it still didn't turn into really, he was never a serious guy. He never will be a serious guy. He has not been a serious star in this show in almost 15 years since he was last heel back in 2011, 2012. So it's probably not going to happen. But, given the lack of tag teams, why don't they have AOP wrestle more? I agree. I don't know. They need to put more emphasis on the tag team division. I thought last night's match, World Tag Team title match with the War Raiders and Judgment Day, was a nice step in the right direction. I thought that was better even than the match that Balor and McDonough had with the War Raiders last month. And McDonough, hopefully he's okay. He took a fucking nasty bump last night on Raw. That was disgusting. But yeah, Kofi and Xavier could feud with really anyone on the roster, and I feel like it would be fine. I'll get back to the chat in a second, but Jordan's second question. I believe that at the 2009 edition of the Royal Rumble, Christian was supposed to interfere and help Edge win the WWE Championship against Jeff Hardy instead of Matt Hardy before the plans got leaked. Should they have stuck with the original plans, or were you fine with the brother versus brother rivalry? You know what's really interesting about that? Is that I started watching wrestling less than a year before that happened, and yet I started to kind of get into the dirt sheets in late 08, early 09. I was watching TNA for the first time in late 08, so I knew who Christian was, not from the stuff he was doing in WWE years earlier with Edge. I think I knew they were aligned and whatnot, but I knew Christian from TNA. I knew him as Christian Cage, but I also knew that he had signed with WWE in late 08. He left TNA, was going back to WWE. And the report was, as you mentioned, that he would cost either Edge or Jeff Hardy the WWE Championship at WrestleMania, at the Royal Rumble, and that would set up Edge and I think maybe Edge feuding. Matt was already on ECW, so I don't really think Matt would have gotten involved. But we may have gotten Edge versus someone else entirely, or Edge versus Christian, or Christian versus Jeff Hardy, or maybe a three-way feud. I think that was the plan. But what happened was, was that people found out about it, and Vince didn't really want to stick to that plan because he thought, oh, it's going to be ruined. People already know that Christian's coming back, so let's have Matt Hardy turn heel instead. That would be a bigger shocker. I'm sure Matt Hardy's maybe confirmed or denied that, and he's done a million interviews, and he has a podcast now. I'm sure he's confirmed that or not confirmed that, but that felt like a last minute decision to have Matt Hardy turn on Jeff. I ended up liking the feud that they had, but it was so fucking dumb to insinuate that Matt Hardy was the one that burned down Jeff Hardy's house. Remember that shit when they were doing the feud going into WrestleMania 25, where they had a great match, by the way. I thought they had a really good match on that show. The stretcher match on SmackDown was fun. The Backlash match, the I Quit match was fun. But going into WrestleMania, they insinuated that Jeff Hardy's house burned down because of Matt. Where, by the way, that was a real fucking thing that happened, and they blamed it on Matt in storyline. Jeff's dog died in that fire, and they brought that into the storyline. And I know Matt has talked about this before. He was not comfortable doing that. He was not comfortable implying that he was the one that burned down Jeff Hardy's house. That's pretty fucking extreme, no pun intended. So the way that they went with the storyline was not good, and they basically just followed the same formula with Brett and Owen, where Brett's like, I don't want to face my brother. Jeff Hardy was the same way. I don't want to face my brother, until Matt got to a point where he was like, oh yeah, I burned down his fucking house. And then Matt's, that's what Matt said, or it was implied or whatever. He didn't deny it. And then Jeff had said, oh yeah, you know what? Actually, I do want to face you at WrestleMania. So it was just dumb. It was a dumb story. So I think, honestly, I would have rather stuck with the original plan. I would have rather see them stick to the original plan and do Christian and Jeff, or Christian and Edge, than Matt and Jeff Hardy. Christian went to ECW instead. Because they switched up the whole thing, they needed a new top babyface on ECW. Jack Swagger took the belt off of Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy had kind of fulfilled his run on ECW. He had won the belt, lost it. There really wasn't much more he could do. So they replaced him with Christian. So basically, the spot that Christian was going to have, they gave to Matt, and they gave Matt's spot to Christian. So that's basically what they did. I would have rather seen, why the fuck wouldn't Christian come back and immediately work with Edge? We never did get a formal feud between the two in WWE when Christian came back. They had opportunities to do it. They never did it. They waited too long. We got it in AEW, thankfully, but we never got it in WWE the second time around, which was fucking dumb. So, yeah, I would have liked the original plan, to answer your question. Going back to the chat here for a moment. Let's see. Rusty says, I think that's my biggest complaint problem with AEW pay-per-views was that they have to be 10 to 13 matches, and that's just too much. I agree. Yeah, 10 to 13 matches is just excessive. Let's see. Jose said, also regarding the Rumble, who do you think would be the final four in the winner? Good question. I will save that for Thursday's stream. I'll talk about it there because we're going to do Royal Rumble predictions on Thursday, hopefully with Mr. Marceau. He says he's around. We talked this morning about it. So even though the show will be later than usual, I'm still hoping to call and we can chat and do our Royal Rumble predictions and talk about the Final Four. So I will not give that away here. Rusty did say his Final Four, Punk, Rollins, Fatu, an up-and-comer that they always have in the Final Four, and John Cena. I feel like that's a pretty good Final Four. Millennial Noob, thank you so much for joining us. As always, my man, I appreciate it. They'd said, hello, Graham, how you doing today? What surprises should we see in the men's and women's Royal Rumble matches? That's a good question. That's actually not asked in my other questions that I have sent in that were sent in ahead of time. For surprises for the men's and women's Rumble this year, I feel like AJ Lee, we've been hoping for her forever. Last year felt like the year, and she didn't come back, probably because she didn't want to. Does she want to now? I don't know. I mean, I think she will at some point for at least an appearance or a cameo now that Punk's back in the company. Will it be in the Rumble? I don't know. Jordan Grace to me is a given in the women's. I feel like Joe Hendry in the men's is a given. Which ones would I like to see? X-Pac I've been pulling for a long time. I feel like that'd be cool. Mr. Kennedy I've been selfishly saying for years. Would anyone give a shit? I don't know. But Mr. Kennedy, one more time. He hasn't been in the company since he got fired 15, 16 years ago. And he was a pretty memorable character for those few years he was there. But listen, if they could bring back people like Carlito and MVP, Shelton Benjamin, John Morrison for Rumble cameos and full-on fucking runs in that company, I don't see... Mr. Kennedy's not going to get a full-on run. He's like 45 at this point, 50, whatever. But for like a quick cameo, he was in that company for 4 or 5 years in the mid-2000s. I feel like enough people would know who he is where it would be a cool little moment. He can get chucked out in 2 seconds by John Cena. You know what I mean? Chris Masters, I know, has always wanted to make a Rumble return. It's probably not happening, but that would be cool. Trying to think of who else. there's always names. You know, Scott Steiner, I've always joked about. I don't think that's going to happen at this point. Like I said, he's had health issues, but I feel like he's always been teasing it. That's probably just a joke. For the women, you know, Eve Torres, I've always wanted to see in a women's rumble, but I just don't think she wants to do it. If she did, I feel like she would have been back by now. I don't really want to see Kelly for the fourth time, Alicia Fox for the fourth time, Trish, the Bella twin. Like, I know Nikki Bella's probably coming back at some point. I saw that report. I know. But, you know, is it something I'm clamoring for? No. I mean, we've seen her make a Rumble return at least 2 other times. Like, let's use some other women here. From NXT, I could see Trick in it, Ethan Page, Cora Jade maybe, Stephanie Vaquer, Roxanne maybe interacting with Bayley, I feel like would make sense. She's been in the Rumble already twice while in NXT, so it wouldn't exactly be a surprise, but it would further her feud with Bayley, so that is something. But yeah, there's any number of ways they can go with it. So those are a few. I know there's definitely more Rumble returns I would love to see, but those are the ones I would selfishly love to see even now in 2025. Let's see. Rusty said, "Oh, what if Big E's music hits at the Rumble this weekend and it'll be the loudest?" What? Okay, listen. Yeah, you said it'll be the loudest pop since Punk came back. I agree. Hell, even bigger. I don't know about bigger, but it would be pretty big. As big as Big E. What if the music hits and it's the New Day? How crazy would that be if they hit Big E's music and the New Day comes out instead, or Kofi comes out instead? That would be a big fuck you to that audience. But it would make for some great heel heat for Kofi in the Rumble. That would be nuts. Daniel Malcolm said, JD tweeted that he's got some broken ribs and a collapsed lung, out for a few months. That sucks. He finished that match like a boss. God bless him. That's crazy. Yeah, I did see that same report. I don't know. I guess he did tweet it. I saw it from like Fightful or some shit. But yeah, hopefully he's okay. That bump was nasty. Rusty said, funny enough, them changing the table from the breakaway one to the new one, they probably saved them from a concussion. I agree. Honestly, yeah, probably did save them. Those tables are cool that they're using now. By the way, JNW Boss, thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. He says he's talking about me, talking about the Hardy Boys story, that they remember that it was stupid. Yeah, he mentioned. Oh yeah, I remember that. And the fact that he was a part of the pyro accident too. Yeah. He was supposed to be behind that. Matt Hardy was, when Jeff got attacked with the pyro. How fucking stupid. Just dumb. I'm sorry. That was a stupid storyline. Daniel said, I'll never forget Todd Grisham's lackluster reaction to Christian's return. It's Christian. I remember that. I remember watching the show and like being like, oh, fuck, this is cool. And like, it was a subpar reaction. It was on fucking ECW. It was so weird, man. Like, especially crowds in 2009. Christian was gone for like barely 3 years. People don't watch TNA at that point. It was a whole new crowd, and people did not remember. And Todd Grisham did not make it feel like a big deal. I'm going to go out of my way to watch that in a couple minutes, by the way. That shit is crazy that even happened. Like, Christian, that should have been a big return for Christian in WWE, and people did not give a shit. Todd Grisham's, reaction that Vince told him to say it as unenthusiastically as possible, is fucking crazy. I would have taken Christian in the main roster over him being on ECW. I agree, JNW Boss. Rusty said, we really haven't gotten a feud between Edge and Christian. No, that's not true. No, Rusty, you're saying not a proper one in AEW. They definitely haven't had a match yet. It seems like we were building to it, though. Rusty, they had at least 3 different matches. They had a match at World's End last year that Christian won. And then I think right after that, Christian beat him back for the TNT title, I think that same night. And then they had a rematch a few months later on Dynamite. They had a pretty lengthy feud from October of 2023 through March of 2024. So it was an elongated feud. Adam Copeland won in the end, got the TNT title back before he had it vacated due to his injury. But no, we got a full-on feud between those two in AEW. JNW Boss said Nick Nemeth in the men's rumble, ? I mean, given their partnership, it would be cool. Listen. If that were to happen, I've said this before, if Nick Nemeth is in the Rumble, like to eliminate Hendry or interact with Hendry, interact with Cena again, they have a long history dating back over a decade, that would be a cool moment. If Dolph Ziggler's in the Royal Rumble with that old music, I would not give 2 fucks. He has not been gone long enough. And now, does it sound stupid that I'm saying Nick Nemeth but not Dolph? There's a difference because Nick Nemeth has the TNA branding. He's a TNA star. Him coming back as Dolph, it's not like it's a different character, like Dolph has a mask and Nick Nemeth doesn't. It's the same fucking guy, okay? And that might enforce why I think this is why you might think this is stupid for me to say cool on Nick Nemeth but not on Dolph. He's built up Nick Nemeth as its own equity in TNA. He's not the same Dolph. Dolph in WWE was a fucking loser at the end there. You can bring back him as Dolph in a couple of years and it might make for a bigger reaction. But as Nick Nemeth, it's a different thing. It's the TNA Forbidden Door. That's kind of cool. But as Dolph Ziggler with the Here to Show the World music, oh God, that shit is like, no thanks. No, absolutely not. I was sick of that hearing that shit 2 years ago, let alone, it has not been long enough. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. I can't miss you if he's never been gone. He's been gone now for a year, a little over a year, but it would be hard to give a shit, honestly, if he was Dolph. As Nick Nemeth with that name, that would be cool. Alexis said, make sure to like this live, share it, and comment, spread the love. I appreciate that, Alexis. As she said, you heard the woman. Be sure to like the video, subscribe, hit the bell button, be notified every time we go live like this, every Tuesday, Thursday, and usually Saturday, but not this week. JNW Boss, if Awesome Kong did not retire, that would have been great for the women's. She retired, but she didn't really. I mean, Awesome Kong is not in great shape at this point. Not that she's in bad shape or like big or anything like that. I'm talking like her back is fucking destroyed. Her back is like destroyed at this point. I'm not even really sure she could do it. So, and that was even a couple of years ago. She came out of retirement for a TNA match. She may have wrestled another match. So, I mean, yeah, she's retired, but not really. The time for a Karma Rumble return, she actually had a Rumble return back in 2012. That was her final WWE appearance. She came back for the Rumble and then left anyway soon after, which was crazy. That whole thing was unfortunate, but I feel like the time for that would have been like 10 years ago. In 2025, I don't think enough people would care or remember her, even from TNA. It would be sick for someone like me who grew up watching TNA and loved her Karma run the Karma run for as short as it was. But, she's just, I think her body is beat to shit with the back injuries and stuff like that. I could be wrong. She's a very nice woman. I just don't know if she could even do it at this point. But they also did say, I felt like Gail Kim and Awesome Kong debuted at the wrong time of women's wrestling. Yeah, no, I feel like their feud really carried that division in TNA back in 2007. They really helped put women's wrestling on the map. Before there was the women's revolution in WWE and NXT in 2014, 2015, we initially got it in TNA. TNA was doing a much better job with their women than WWE ever did, especially in 07, 08. And Gail Kim and Awesome Kong had a lot to do with it. Gail Kim in the Rumble would be cool. I don't think it's going to happen. Again, I don't know if enough people would remember her or care, but, for her to get that final send-off, because it would be almost fitting in a way, because her final WWE appearance was her basically eliminating herself from a battle royal. So to return in a battle royal over almost 15 years later to get that final send-off would be cool. It's not going to happen, but it would be cool. Rusty says, now I don't remember. Yeah, you got to go back and watch the matches. Christian and Adam Copeland feuded for a long time. Millennial Noob said, what are your thoughts on Asuka possibly coming back soon? She may not be at the Rumble, but she might come back during WrestleMania 41 season, or will it be the second time that she will not make it to Mania? I don't know. I could see Asuka in the Women's Rumble, but then what do you do with her? Does she just get put right back in Damage Control? Probably. I could see her being back before Mania, but, will she be in Action Mania? Probably not. Unless they do, a Women's Battle Royal or a Women's Multi-Woman Tag Team match. Probably not. Her and Lyra would be cool, though, if they did do that. But I'd rather see, honestly, at this point, I'd rather see Io on the card than Asuka. Asuka's had her Mania matches. Io's, she's had a few, but I feel like it'd be cool for Io to be at Mania. I feel like that would be a bigger priority, in my opinion. Rusty said, I have to ask, do we see Tessa Blanchard in the Rumble this weekend? Eileen, no. Yeah, no, I don't think so. I'm not saying WWE would never bring her in, but it's definitely way too soon. I just don't see that happening. Especially after she got "You're a Racist" chance at TNA Genesis a week or two ago. It's too soon. Down the road, if that shit dies down and she's on her best behavior, I could see them bringing her in. They probably should, because she is a star. If people, not saying they get over it, but if it dies down and they kind of move past that and whatever, because it's not like the racist stuff, and I've said this before, we talked about this on Wrestle Rant Radio, I'll make it quick, but it's not like when the racist stuff came out 5 years ago, she was getting "You're a Racist" chants in TNA after that. She won the world title and she was their top babyface. I mean, it's not like people were upset at the time, but the crowds weren't rebelling against her. But her reputation has been so fucking damaged since then through shit that she has said and not done and apologized for, blah, blah, blah. That's what it really stems from. But that being said, if she doesn't rehab her image until then, if she doesn't rehab her image in the next couple of years, they will not bring her in. But if she does, or attempts to, or at least stays quiet and doesn't fucking put her foot in her mouth, then I could see her in WWE in a women's rumble down the road. Absolutely. But that won't be anytime soon. Daniel said that even Dolph said on Busted Open Radio, he said on Busted Open, bro, I literally just left there. I mean, that could be a swerve, and then he's in it as Nick Nemeth. But I agree. Dude, he just left. There's a million Rumble surprises I would rather see before Dolph fucking Ziggler. I'm sorry. Nick Nemeth would be fine, but just use Joe Hendry or someone else from TNA. I know people do not like Moose, and that's fine, but I'd rather see someone like a Moose in there or a fucking... East Austin isn't really a big star, but who else is like a notable name from TNA? Like Eddie Edwards, no one would give a shit. Aside from Moose, I mean the Hardys, obviously. One of the Hardys would be cool. I think the Hardys would get a much bigger reaction than Dolph fucking Ziggler. So, just my opinion. If we get anyone from TNA on the women's side, would it be, if not Tessa, Rosemary, Masha? Rosemary would be fine. She's already appeared in NXT. Her in the women's Rumble would be cool. Masha, I feel like, is a given. We've already had the Knockouts champion in the Rumble twice before in Mickie James and Jordan Grace, respectively. I could see Masha being in the Rumble because we just saw her in NXT make an appearance in the crowd a couple of weeks ago. Noel, thank you for joining us in the chat. I appreciate it. They said, Graham, don't be surprised if we get a Tessa Blanchard Charlotte Flair moment in the Rumble. I would be surprised. Because, again, like I said, I just feel like it's too soon. I feel like the Tessa heat, like the real life heat that people have on her, is still too fresh to risk bringing her in and having one of the headlines coming out of the Rumble, Tessa Blanchard, TNA star that WWE appears at WWE Royal Rumble, gets you're a racist chance. I could totally see that, so I wouldn't even risk it. It would be a great moment for down the road. Tessa and Charlotte, two daughters of two four horsemen. That would be awesome. It's just not right now. If she didn't fuck up a couple years ago, we would have gotten it by now. But I just would not take that risk. Maybe you do it and it's not a big deal. Like, people don't react that way, but like I said, I wouldn't risk it. Jose said, this is random, but would you make a tier list for the WrestleMania stages? Because some stages are really good or great. Yeah, I would consider that a tier list for the WrestleMania stages. I was going to do a tier list of Royal Rumble posters. I saw that as a tier list, and I'm like, I don't really have a great eye for that. I said to Alexis, like, maybe we could do that together, or she could do that, and we could do that as a video on the channel. But, like, for me, all the posters look all the fucking same. But for the stages the WrestleMania stages, I would definitely do a tier list. Maybe as we get closer to WrestleMania. That's a great idea. Micah says, was Raw good? I only got up to see Xavier Woods versus Ray and then fell asleep. First of all, Micah, if I didn't already say it, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it. Always great to see you in the chat. Second of all, I did think Raw was good. I would definitely make time for the McIntyre-Zayn match. We've seen before, more of the same, but it was good. I would definitely check out the Punk and Rhodes confrontation at the end of the show. If you missed that and you fell asleep, go back and check it out. That was really good television. Cody seemed out of it. He seemed fucking drunk, but maybe that was the point, to kind of sell people on the idea that he's a weary champion. But yeah, I thought the segment was strong, though. Bringing in Tessa with Hogan as a manager. Yeah, that would be heat. Heat. Talk about heat. Bringing in Tessa with Hogan, that would be the epitome of heat. Micah says, do you see WWE doing co-winners this year between Roman and Punk and setting up a match at Mania? I don't think we need to see co-winners for a Rumble ever again. That would just be a stupid fucking finish. Just because we saw in the 05 Rumble, because it wasn't the plan in 05 to do co-winners, but they restarted the match. So why wouldn't you just restart the match? What would that even be? Like Roman and Punk, you said set up a match for Mania, but Roman and Punk would both be winning the Rumble. So would that be a triple threat with Gunther? I mean, that would just, With Cody, we do not need to see Roman and Cody back in the ring together. I don't know. It would be possible. I really don't want to see that. I do not want to see co-winners ever again. I feel like if they were to do that shit again, it would have to really make sense. For Punk and Roman, to me, it doesn't even make sense. Why can't Punk just have a Rumble win with no asterisk? He just fucking wins. Why can't we just give this man his moment? He's been waiting for this moment for a long time. Just give it to him. I kid. But your second comment here, he said, I think the favor between Punk and Heyman is that if it comes down between Punk and Roman as the final two in the Rumble, Heyman would cost Roman the match for Punk to go to Mania. Maybe. That would be better. That would be better. I don't see it happening like that, but it would be cool. Rusty says, I'd like to see Ace Austin in the Rumble this weekend. That would be cool. I don't know if enough people would care or know who he is, but Ace Austin is great. And I would love to see, I would love to see East Austin in the Rumble. He's really good, so we'll see. Probably not, but it would be cool. Jose said, do you think we would ever see Kenny Omega in WWE? Yeah, I think it's possible. Honestly, based on stuff that's been said and reported with the Elite and they're standing in AEW, I think it's very possible that we could see him in WWE down the road. Anytime soon, I don't know. But down the road, never say never. For at least a one-off, I think it's possible. Jose also said, I already have to go. I have a job interview. Great. Great live. I'll be on the next. God bless. Jose, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate it, my dude. Best of luck with your job interview. Hope you get it. And good luck. Thank you so much for joining us. And hope to catch you on the next one. Rusty said, I want Punk to have his moment and win the Rumble. Fans want it, and it fits the story, unlike last year. I mean, it would have fit the story last year. If it was Punk and Rollins at Mania and Punk didn't get hurt, it would have made sense if Punk won last year. But I think it makes just as much sense for him to win this year as well. Kadeem G from YouTube, their question was, they sent this in ahead of time. They said, hey, Graham, with this Hurt Syndicate winning the AEW Tag Team titles on Dynamite, what do you think went wrong with Private Party's AEW Tag Team title reign, which in my opinion has become a bust? Dude, the Private Party Tag Team title reign, they fucking ruined that. It was such a great moment when they beat the Bucks, but it's so obvious in retrospect because the Bucks even did an interview not too long ago, either before Wrestle Kingdom or when they returned at Wrestle Kingdom afterward, whatever. And they kind of confirmed that the plans for them to lose the tag team titles changed multiple times. I don't know if they confirmed they wanted to lose it to the Outrunners, but honestly, I could have absolutely seen it. Because the Outrunners, they're still over now, but they were getting really hot reactions late last year. I could have seen them losing it to the Outrunners on like a whim, on like a quick title change or something, and have it be this big upset. But they gave it to Private Party instead, which I still agree with, because Private Party been in the company for 5-6 fucking years. They really should have won it by now. Better late than never. The subs, I mean, at least we will always have that moment in that match. Everything that came after it was a complete and utter failure. They were barely on Dynamite, did not wrestle on Dynamite until like a couple of weeks ago, got destroyed by the Hurt Syndicate, and the match they had last week was good. It was basically a glorified squash. And it's at the point now where people do not give a fuck about them. People didn't really care about them before, but that's because that's an indictment on creative and not really them specifically, them personally. Tony Khan did not follow up on them whatsoever. And it was just an embarrassment. The Hurt Syndicate are the hot hand. I would also put the belts on them. But if I was in charge, I also would have made sure the Private Party had a better run as AEW World Tag Team Champions. The Hurt Syndicate are a great group. I think they will be fun in that role as tag team champions. Bobby Lashley's bigger than the tag team titles, but whatever. The man beat Swerve in his debut, pay-per-view match for AEW and then goes back to the tag team division. That's weird to me. But at the very least, they're a great group, get great reactions, great. Private Party, I'm not saying they're done for, fire them or they're going to quit or whatever. But AEW did absolutely nothing with them or that division in the time that they were champions. Just a complete fucking embarrassment of a run. And that's not their fault. The booking sucked. Absolutely sucked. They were barely even on the fucking show. We got a question in the chat. I do not know how to pronounce your name. I'm not even going to attempt to. I don't want to fuck it up. The individual whose name begins with Y. Thank you, first of all, for joining us. Thank you also for sending in the question. I can't begin to pronounce it, I don't want to try because I don't want to disrespect you. But your question was, thoughts on a Pete Dunne, Ludwig Kaiser tag team? Yeah, that's interesting. Didn't they tease it last night when they interacted backstage on Raw? I think that was one of the segments that actually did make the air for us in the U.S. We saw that segment, but not fucking Penta confronting Braun Breaker. What the fuck? How did that only get shown to international viewers, but not the U.S. viewers? That's just completely ridiculous. Anyway, Pete Dunne, Kaiser as a tag team, it's fine, but they were already in tag teams. I'd rather see them do their own thing. They're not really doing much in the moment anyway, specifically Dunne. He was feuding with R-Truth. I don't think he ever got his win back. What the fuck happened there? But Pete Dunne, we already saw in a tag team with Holland. We already saw Kaiser in a tag team with Vinci. So I'd rather just keep them on their own personally. Rusty Rage has also said the Hurt Syndicate is awesome, but I expect that will die out sooner than later. At some point, Tony Khan will get a new toy. Yeah, maybe. I don't know if... Listen, I think even if the booking doesn't support the Hurt Syndicate, they will remain over because people think they're just fucking cool. Whether they're booked that way or not, they will always then get great reactions because they're just a great fucking group. Yeah, Tony Khan always moves on to the fresh new thing. I get that. But they've been there for a few months, and so far so good. And I think that's because they get great reactions and they're over already. They don't have to get over because they already are over. The people that need to get over or that need... sustained booking to stay over. I think the Hurt Business, the Hurt Syndicate will be over no matter what. People like Private Party will not, even though they're talented, just because the booking is not there to support them, or they're just not on the show. At least the Hurt Syndicate are, because they're already over. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword with people like Private Party. Like, you need to be over to get on TV, but you can't get over if you're not on TV. That's kind of the problem. A Millennial Noob said, do you think WWE will bring back the Mixed Match Challenge? It was very fun and interesting. The first 2 seasons were awesome, and the teams were great. Do you think Triple H brings it back in 2025? No, I don't. I feel like if they were going to bring it back, they would have already done so. I actually did not like Mixed Match Challenge. I covered it. I watched it. I reviewed it. It was just like stupid shit. It wasn't like serious tag team stuff. It was fun. It was fun for like a season. Then they did it the second time, and I thought it was dumb. Like, I just didn't give a shit. Some of the team, like everyone either got hurt or creative changed. Nothing was really on the line. The second time they put like the final spots in the men's and women's rumbles on the line. It's just, I just didn't care. So no, I hope they don't bring it back. And the funny thing about that show, I will say this, I spoke to someone in WWE many years ago in the company. We weren't talking about this, but it got like brought up when I was speaking to someone that worked there. I think they still work there. I don't know. But they mentioned to me that Mixed Match Challenge, for whatever reason, was a logistical nightmare. No one in the company liked doing it. Maybe the performers did, but like the people that had to like, I don't know, maybe not write the show or like, I don't know, produce the show for digital, whatever the fuck, because it was on Facebook Live too. It wasn't on YouTube or whatever. I think there was a negative connotation with that show internally within WWE. So there's a scoop for you. I didn't really dig deeper into that. I was just like, yeah, I thought that show was stupid. And they're like, yeah, Mixed Match Challenge was a fucking disaster. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. You had also mentioned, again, I'm not going to pronounce your name because I'm going to botch it, but the individual who starts with Y, I'll call you Y. Unless you have a nickname. But thank you for joining us again. I appreciate it. They had said it's wild that tag team divisions across both companies are so mid these days overall. I agree. I feel like they could do a better job of injecting more life into these tag team divisions, making them more meaningful, giving people a reason to give a shit. It's better, I think, in WWE than AEW. At least in WWE on SmackDown, you had the DIY machine gun stuff, and they're getting pretty deadly on the show. And Low Scar's on the show. A lot of good teams there. Raw last night, I thought had a really good World Tag Team title match. That was a very good match. In AEW, it's impossible to give a fuck. They have teams, but there's just no real stories there. They're not really on the TV a whole lot. That was even the case when the Bucks were the champions last summer. The champions, they were the champions for like 6 months. They barely defended the fucking things before they finally lost those belts. So this isn't just like a private party issue. The tag team division in AEW has not been what it was in a long time, but it really hasn't been a focal point, and I would say at least maybe a year and a half, since like late 2023. Alexis mentioned a new Northeast Wrestling show announced for May 3rd. I did see that before it went live. In Danbury, Connecticut. If the card is good, we will definitely be there. Their first show in almost a year, so I'm very excited for that. Thank you for the breaking news. Average Grunt said, if Shelton Benjamin does not win the Ring of Honor World Championship at some point, I will go full heel on Tony. I don't know if he will. I mean, it seems like they're kind of content pushing Benjamin at the mid-card tag team level in AEW. They may not even waste time with him in Ring of Honor. Honestly, I'm surprised he hasn't already appeared in Ring of Honor, considering his history there from a long time ago. But Benjamin is Ring of Honor World Champion at this point. Why the fuck not? Honestly, if you could put the belt on Jericho twice, not even once, but twice. I did this, but I meant twice. I like the guy from Shrek. Number 2, my lord, or number 3, my lord, and he has like 2 fingers up or whatever the fuck. Anyway, that's besides the point. Yeah, if they could put the belt on Jericho twice, I don't see why not put the belt on Benjamin. At this point, who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? Ring of Honor, who gives a shit? Why not just put the belt on Shelton Benjamin? Ahmed joining us. Thank you for joining us, my man. Great to see you. He said, what's up? Did you just start? No, we've been live for like an hour and a half. I've been live since almost 12:30. There's no set time for these shows. An hour and 15 minutes ago, by the way. Go back and check out the other questions or just stay live so you can answer some questions with us. Ask some questions. That'd be great, but just as a heads up, there's no set time for when I start the show. I don't want to hold myself to a certain time, and I can't do it at that time. So it's between 11, 12, 1 Eastern. I do got to get going soon. So, I mean, we'll answer the rest of the questions, obviously. Not soon, like in the next 10 minutes. I'll probably get going in the next 30, 40 minutes. I do have to eat too as well before I get going, so not here on the stream. Unless it's something you guys are interested in. Unless we can all eat lunch together and they can see me eating a fucking chicken sandwich. That'd be fascinating television, I'm sure. Fascinating streaming. But Rusty said, yeah, both companies have shit tag team divisions. I'd put WWE slightly ahead of AEW. I agree. Y had mentioned my wrestling friends call me Yokozuna, LOL. I will call you Yokozuna as well. If you want me to call you Yokozuna, we have Yokozuna here in the chat. That's funny. I mean, obviously your name doesn't look like Yokozuna, but if that's the closest that it comes to pronouncing it, we can go with Yokozuna. I think that's funny. Mukbangs, the GSM mukbangs, whatever the fuck. We're not doing that, Alexis. Don't put that idea out there. That would be I feel like that'd be I think of your friend Amberlyn Reed every time I see that word. Ahmed says the match with the War Raiders versus JD last night, they need to do more of that on Raw. I agree. I said that earlier. Do more of that. The match was fun. It was great. Do more of that, please. Please. Rusty says both of Jericho's Ring of Honor World Championship runs have been shit. That world title has never meant less. The first one I liked. I thought when he was working with like the former Ring of Honor World Champions, I actually really enjoyed that run more than I thought I would. He lost it right back to Claudio, which was fine, but you know, the matches he had with Bandito, I thought that was a great fucking match. Who else did he work with on TV? He faced a lot of former Ring of Honor World Champions, but I remember that run being fun. I'm thinking, what former World Champion will they bring in this week? And Bandito got a contract out of it because that match was so good. Rusty said that'd be fantastic television. Dylan said, I think Del Rio would be a great... Or no, actually, Dylan said two things. He said, I'm surprised JD is alive after hitting that table. Yeah, that was a nasty bump. And as other people have said, if it wasn't for that, like, new table, he may have, like, fucking killed himself. The new table actually may have saved him. That was a nasty bump. And as I said earlier, JD did reveal that he is out injured with, I think, broken ribs or something like that for a few months, so... get well soon to JD McDonough. Dylan also said, I think Del Rio would be a great surprise for the Rumble. What do you think, GSM? Dylan is trying to pop me after popping me on the stream a couple of weeks ago. Del Rio would be garbage. You know that, Dylan. You know why you're asking me that question. I'm answering this question. That would be trash. Del Rio can go make a fucking Royal Rumble return in jail, in prison for all I care. That guy seems like a real piece of shit human being, so... Absolutely not. maybe 10 years ago. When he came back to the company 10 years ago, I was like, oh yeah, this is cool. And then he turned out to be a piece of shit, so probably not. The average grunt, if Benjamin never left Ring of Honor in the early 2010s, he would have been a multi-time world champion by now. Yeah, I could have seen that. He was never even a mid-card champion there, which was weird, but yeah, Benjamin, especially, not necessarily. I feel like with the roster that Ring of Honor had in the early 2010s, mid-2010s, they had so many people that were better, at that level. I feel like that there were so many more people that were better at that world title level that were worthy of holding that world championship in Ring of Honor before Benjamin. So probably not, but maybe. Ahmed said, GSM, I would not mind going ahead eating lunch during the stream. You're saying you wouldn't mind me eating lunch during the stream? I appreciate that, guys. I feel like I would feel very, not violated, but I feel like I'd be doing you guys a disservice to try to eat and then answer your questions at the same time. If I was starving, then maybe, but I'll spare you me eating lunch while we're talking here. The average grunt said Jericho's first run was fine enough. Yeah, the second one, woof. Yeah, it's fucking garbage. Jericho, you know what? I'm probably going to do a video on this at some point. I don't know if you guys would want to see this. I have like a whole rant ready. Like every time, Alexis can attest to this. Anytime we watch Dynamite, I usually watch it by myself because the show just means nothing. But when I do watch the show with Alexis, she can attest to the fact every time I see Jericho on the show, this is not a bit. I legitimately groan. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me with this garbage? What is this New York Minute nonsense? Why are we wasting precious minutes of our lifetime watching this fucking garbage with Jericho specifically? Dynamite itself is fine. I'm not saying that's a waste of time. Jericho specifically is garbage. Anything he is involved in at this point is absolute fucking garbage. Just trash. Especially, this is the worst shit he has done in the 35 years he has been wrestling. It's not even close. Absolute garbage. Rusty said, yeah, the Bandito match was good. I was being mean to Jericho on his first Ring of Honor run. That's what he meant. Tyreek, thank you for joining us. Great to see you here in the chat. I appreciate the question and appreciate you chatting in and tuning in live. Hope you're having a great day, my man. He said, hey, Graham, in talks, talking about opinion, do you think the remedy was karma for the Kurt Angle stuff Becky Lynch had to go through? I'm trying to understand your question. Do you think the remedy was karma for the Kurt Angle stuff that Becky Lynch had to go through. I don't know what you're talking about. So Tyreek, if you can reword that, I can maybe answer your question. Otherwise, I'm not really sure what you're talking about. Kurt Angle and Becky Lynch, I have no idea what one has to do with the other. But if you have a different question or if you want to elaborate, just let me know. Ahmed said, trust when I say this, no one wants to see a Del dipshit return. I agree. Rusty says because Tony Khan is infatuated with Jericho. I agree. It's just, he just can't say no. That's the problem. Tony Khan can't tell him no. Dylan said Shelton Benjamin is definitely underrated as far as wrestling talent goes. Chris Jericho equates to changing the channel and unwatchable TV. He is so bad he needs to retire. I mean, it's not even a retire thing for me, but everything else you said, I agree. The channel changing material, it's unwatchable television. The fact that Tony Khan even allows that on his show is embarrassing. Let's see. Micah does it from YouTube. The question he sent in previously, he said, what should WWE do with Jey Uso at WrestleMania? I posed that question to you guys too, because I legitimately don't know. Mikey said, I don't see him competing for any world championships. At Mania, no. Could he win the Rumble and get another opportunity against Gunther at Mania? Sure. I really don't want to see that. We've seen the match enough. It's not like they're out there having great fucking matches. I don't really want to see Jey Uso as world champion or challenging for the world title at WrestleMania. Yes, Dylan, the learning tree. Thanks, guys. Garbage. It's fucking terrible. Anyway, with Jey Uso, I ask you guys, what do you want to see Jey Uso do at Mania? Because I legitimately do not fucking know. I saw someone say a while ago, him and Logan Paul. I like that idea. I think that'd be a good idea. Beyond that, I don't really know, honestly. Like, maybe an Usos tag team thing, but beyond that, maybe like the Usos and Sami Zayn versus, like, I don't know. I feel like a 6-man at Mania with nothing on the line would just be stupid, but like them versus Kevin Owens and Rollins maybe and McIntyre, like anti-Bloodline versus OG Bloodline, maybe I could see that working to get everyone in a match on the show, but is that really the most interesting route to take? I don't know. I'm not really sure. So honestly, I don't really know what you do with Jey at Mania. Him and Breaker, been there, done that. Him and Gunther, been there, done that. He'll probably, in my opinion, end up in a multi-man match. That's probably where we're going with Jey. His second question, career versus title between Sheamus and Braun Breaker at Mania, ? Yeah, I like that. Ahmed said Jey and Logan Paul is what I got GSM. I like that. I mean, I like that match. And Rusty also said, I love Big Bill, he said. And I pray they get him out of that group before it's too late. I agree. That shit is fucking awful. Big Bill, remember when Big Bill was getting like that big reaction when they were in, like, I don't know, Scotland or something for a collision many months ago? And then Jericho lost the FTW title. And Tony Khan was like, oh, trust me on this. Like, this match will make sense. Trust me. And then Jericho never disappeared from television. And Big Bill never separated from Jericho. And they're going to build to it at a point where no one's going to give a fuck. That's what they do. It gets to a point where no one gives a shit. And that's what they're going to do with Big Bill. And when he finally does break away from Jericho, no one will care. Because they missed their window by about 2 years. But anyway, career versus title between Sheamus and Breaker at Mania. I would love to see them run it back in Mania. I don't think that happens. But that being said, I don't like that idea just because if you say Sheamus's career is on the line, he should put something on the line because he's lost so many times now. How does he get another opportunity? Like, by earning it. He could earn it, but like, I just don't really like that idea. Because it would make it more obvious that Sheamus will win. We know a lot of people are aware that Sheamus just re-signed with WWE for 5 years. Not as a producer, not as a backstage agent. He signed as a superstar. So if he re-signed for another 4 to 5 years, he's not fucking losing and then going to retire early. So that would just make it way too obvious. But I would not mind seeing Sheamus and Breaker again. But as I've said before, just to make this clear to people, with Sheamus and Breaker, I don't think they do that match again at WrestleMania. I don't, because I just don't really see what the point would be. Not that I don't see the point, because Sheamus winning at WrestleMania would be amazing. But Sheamus has already lost enough. He would have to win another Elimination Chamber match. Not another, but like, he would have to win another number one contenders match or do something along those lines for it to make sense. So I don't see them doing Sheamus and Breaker. I feel like they got it out of their system on Saturday and they're moving on. Back here to the chat for a moment. Dylan said, I wouldn't mind seeing a fatal four-way to get a shot at the World Heavyweight title. Wrestlers like Jay, Chad could be in that next match would take place at Mania. Yeah, that'd be cool. Chad, I don't know if would be in a world title number one contenders match at Mania, but yeah, that would be a good way to use him. I agree. I don't think Chad will be in action at Mania again like last year. He wasn't last year. I don't think this year will be any different, but you never know. Rusty said, I never ever want to see Ryback on my TV, LOL. Yeah, I don't think Ryback's coming back. At this point, it's not happening. It would have made for a great reaction like 5 years ago, but we're so past the point of having a Ryback return mean something that no one cares. And he's also a fucking psycho, it seems like, so no thanks. Ahmed said they teased Breaker versus Penta last night. That they did. They did. That's a match I would love to see. They teased it for international viewers. For those us here in the States, I got a fucking commercial. So I was relegated to seeing that shit during a social media post on X. If I wasn't on Twitter, did not even know that would have happened. Like, is that shit, like, I thought they were doing meaningless shit during the commercials, not shit that actually fucking matters like that. I'm like, what the fuck? Yeah, I could watch the show with a VPN, but we watch it on TV. If I watched that on my laptop, then sure, I could turn on a VPN to watch Raw on Netflix. But I watch it on TV. It's a lot harder to manage. It's a pain in the ass. I'll just stick to getting that shit on Twitter, I guess. Rusty said, that's a big time no from me, sir. LOL. I think you're talking about Ryback, but I could be wrong. And then Ahmed said, move American Made to SmackDown. What's taking them so long? The problem with that, like I've said before, they moved the Wyatt Six to SmackDown. So if you move American Made to SmackDown, they're on the same show with the group they already feuded with last summer. I don't see them doing that, though. So they should have moved American Made to SmackDown before the Wyatt Six. I don't really know why. Like, Alexa Bliss's return fell through, so we can't use American Made on SmackDown, or we can't use Wyatt Six on Raw. I don't know why it's an American Made, but we can't use Wyatt Six on Raw anymore because Alexa Bliss's return fell through, so let's move him to SmackDown. Why? That doesn't make any sense. Move American Made. Keep them on Raw. Move American Made to SmackDown. At this point, I don't think that's happening. In the transfer window, they said, ends this weekend. So if they don't move to SmackDown by the end of the weekend, then it's not happening. Dylan also said Penta versus Breaker is must-see. That mid-air spearing in Sheamus was amazing. I watched that show with Dylan on Saturday. That spear was incredible. One of the best spears I've ever seen. Penta and Breaker would be definitely a must-see match for sure. And Ahmed said that mid-card on SmackDown needs help. Yes, it does. They got some good people, but it needs more direction, better direction, not bloodline-related shit. It definitely needs an overhaul for sure. Micah also asked, top 5 favorite matches that happened at the Royal Rumble in the last 10 years, from least favorite to your most favorite. So I'm going to tie this in with another question, the title of this video. No L from Facebook also asked, what would be your top 5 Royal Rumble matches of all time? I'm going to tie these questions together. I will answer No L's question first, and then Micah's question, because Micah's question includes some Rumble matches themselves that I will mention here. So my top 5 favorite Royal Rumble matches of all time, just Royal Rumbles and not like matches that took place at the Rumble, which falls more under Micah's question, include the following. And I said this on Twitter the other day before I knew that someone was going to ask me a question, but oh well. The 08 Rumble, that's probably top 5 Rumble for me. 2010, because that was the first Rumble I ever purchased. That was the first WWE pay-per-view I ever purchased. I asked my mom for it. She reluctantly let me buy it. And I love that show. Edge coming back was a great moment. I love the show, but the match itself was also a lot of fun. CM Punk cutting a promo, the Edge return, the Shawn Michaels story. Love that Rumble. So 08, 2010, 2020. Love the 2020 Rumble. 2018, because that was there. That was the first Rumble I ever attended, was 2018. And that was a great show, or a good show. Great men's Rumble. Shinsuke Nakamura winning that one. Adam Cole making a surprise cameo. Rey Mysterio returning was nuts. No one expected that. I wanted to see it. Didn't think it would actually happen. That was fucking cool. So those 4, and then probably 2016. I think 2016. So that was the one that AJ Styles debuted in. I really liked that Rumble a lot. So yeah, those are probably my top 5 favorite Rumbles. 08, 2010, 2016, 2018, and 2020. There's been some good ones in recent years. I would love for this year's to be on that list, but I think those are my 5 favorite Rumbles. There's been a lot of Rumbles. I like watching the 05 Rumble. I really enjoy that one. I think that's a fun one. 01 is obviously great. 92 is star-studded. 2011 I used to like. That was one I really used to enjoy with Booker T coming out and Diesel coming out. Amazing returns. But it was just too fucking long at 40 people. There was a reason why they never did it again after that until the greatest Royal Rumble in 2018 with 50 people. That shit was awful. But Yeah, I'm trying to think. So, yeah, definitely not, probably not 2011 now. That's not among my favorite anymore, but I still enjoy that Rumble. There was a couple good stories told in that one as well. 2012, no. I used to enjoy the 2013 Rumble. I enjoyed that Rumble. That was another pay per view I bought. When WWE was only doing pay per views and not the network, the only 4 pay per views I ever bought, I went to other people's houses for Mania, but the only pay per views I ever bought were Royal Rumble 2010, great show. Royal Rumble 2013, good show, fun Rumble. I really wanted to watch that show for Rock and Punk, and I did. Night of Champions 2010, because I used to love Night of Champions when it first started. When I first started watching wrestling in '08, I loved Night of Champions. So Night of Champions 2010, I bought that show and had it for a long time before it got erased on the DVR. And then Money in the Bank 2013. So 2010 pay-per-views, 2013 pay-per-views, and then the network came around in 2014. So I didn't have to buy pay-per-views anymore. But yeah, I have a very special place for the Rumble, and I'm looking forward to being there this weekend for my 4th Rumble, because I was there last year, the year before, and in 2018. So this will be my 4th Rumble coming up this weekend that I've been in attendance for. But to answer Micah's other question, or that was no L's question. Micah's question: top 5 favorite matches that happened at the Rumble in the last 10 years, from least favorite to favorite. That's a good question. It would include the 2016 Rumble, the 2018 Rumble, and the 2020 Rumble. All of the men's Rumbles, by the way. The women's Rumbles have been good, but those are all the men's Rumbles. I would probably go 2016 Rumble first, and then 2018 Rumble. Then I would go favorite matches. I'd probably go 2016 Rumble for least favorite of these 5. 2018 Rumble. Cena and Styles for the WWE Championship from Royal Rumble 2017 at 3. 2 would be 2020 Rumble. I'm kind of torn between number 1, but I'll go with the match that's not a Rumble match. I'll go 2020 Rumble at 2. And the number 1, Brock Cena Rollins WWE title, Royal Rumble 2015. It's still within the last 10 years. You said last 10 years. That is within the last 10 years. It probably happened a decade ago today or a couple days ago, whatever it was. That match was incredible. Still one of the greatest triple threats in WWE history was Cena, Brock, and Rollins from 2015 Royal Rumble. It made that show because the Rumble match itself was fucking awful when Roman won. So that match alone, didn't salvage the show. The show was still but it made it 10 times better because the Rumble itself sucked. Rusty said, when you said Breaker by mistake, I heard Ryback is what he said, and that's why I said what I said. My bad, LOL. Yeah, no, not Ryback. Fuck Ryback. Breaker is who I said. And then Ahmed said, at least we're getting Black on SmackDown, so maybe that might be, they might do Black versus Nakamura for the US title of Mania. Hey, we'll see. We'll see. Nakamura and Black would be fucking awesome. And I don't know if they ever did that in NXT. I don't think so, because Nakamura left in 2017. Oh, yeah. Nakamura's last night in NXT in 2017 was Black's first at TakeOver Orlando. And I know that because I was there. Black debuted that night in NXT, and Nakamura left. So, yeah, they never interacted. Unless it was on the main roster, which I don't think they did, because Nakamura was always on SmackDown and Black was on Raw. So I don't think they ever interacted. Black was on SmackDown a little bit in the beginning and the end, but I don't think him and Nakamura ever interacted to my knowledge. But anyway, Christopher L. asked from Facebook, he said, hi, Graham, hope everything is going well and you had a great weekend. Thank you, Christopher. I appreciate that. He said, which Royal Rumble winner was a bigger backfire than the others? Charlotte Flair in 2020, Asuka, oh, my document's messing up here, Asuka in 2018, or Roman Reigns in 2015. This can't even be a question. This can't even be a question because it is easily Roman Reigns 2015. The Asuka 2018 Rumble how was that a backfire? Yeah, she lost to Mania, but the match was great. She was the right winner. It got a great reaction. Ronda Rousey came out right afterward, but, I mean, that was about, that didn't really take away from Asuka's moment. Charlotte Flair in 2020, it really should have been Shayna that won that year's Mania or Rumble, but they had Shayna face Becky anyway, so it was fine, and Charlotte needed to win the Rumble to explain why she was facing Rhea Ripley for the NXT Women's title at Mania. But Roman Reigns was such a big backfire because I think WWE thought, oh yeah, they'll get over the fact that Bryan got eliminated early and they'll rally behind Roman winning, which was not the fucking case at all. They didn't even have Bryan in there until the final 2 or 4. He was eliminated early on. And they shit on the rest of that match. That was such a big fucking backfire. One of the biggest backfires, not only Royal Rumble history, but WWE history. That was such a short-sighted decision. Rusty said, is there a chance that we get Aleister Black in the Rumble this weekend? Yeah, there's a chance. I don't think it's going to happen. I feel like his contract might be up after that. Maybe it's up before and he could show up then. Maybe. I don't see it happening, but it's possible. Ahmed said that triple threat match happened on January 25th, 2015, so it is a decade. I mean, yeah, it's been over a decade, literally, but yeah, the actual anniversary wasn't the 25th, like you said. Let's see. No L. Their other question that I did not answer before was, do you think Triple H is always hated that his only two WrestleMania main events, being WrestleMania 18 and WrestleMania 25, were overshadowed by the Rock versus Hogan match and Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels? Yeah, I think he does resent that, because I think Triple H, at least at that point, was always wanted to be the guy, which is why he was the guy on Raw from like 02 to 05, albeit as a heel. But like, he was constantly in the world title mix for like 3 fucking straight years. And he was in 2002, but in 2000 he was firing in all cylinders. In 02 it was a lot of boring matches and feuds and promos and stuff like that. He probably was bothered by the fact that his only 2 Mania main events, 3 actually, because he main evented. You said his only 2 Mania main events. He actually main evented in a third time in 2016 with Roman Reigns. So he's actually at 3 main events. But anyway, I'm sure he does despise the fact that Rock and Hogan was a much hotter attraction. I don't know if he resents Shawn and Taker because he's friends with them, but the Randy and Triple H story was WrestleMania main event worthy. We had seen it before, but the actual story they were doing going into WrestleMania 25 was great. I had just started watching wrestling. That shit hooked me. It was a great story. The match itself was underwhelming as fuck. Such a mediocre, disappointing match. They had better matches after that and before it. That match was certainly not one of them. So he was probably bothered by that. Maybe they were short on time. I don't know. But even at 32, when he main evented in 2016, he was the main event. The crowd did not give a fuck. And I like the story with Roman and Triple H, but Roman was not that guy. People didn't really want to see Roman as that guy winning the belt on that show from Triple H. It was so predictable. People didn't really want to see it. The match wasn't great. It was okay. It was good. That would be being generous. People didn't give a fuck, though. So, yeah, I think Triple H, I don't know about now, but at least at that point a while ago, he probably resented the fact that, those main events were overshadowed. His main events were overshadowed by bigger and better matches that happened earlier in those respective manias. At Ewagoo91, do you think Nick Nemitz's TNA World title run, is the best of his world title runs that he's had so far in his career to date? I do, easily. Because, what other world title runs has Nick Nemeth has he had in wrestling? Let's think for a second, because in WWE, if you count the NXT Championship, I guess technically he had 3. But if you're not counting the NXT, we'll count the NXT Championship. He was World Heavyweight Champion for 15 minutes on SmackDown in 2011, 2010, 2011. So it was obviously better than that one. His TNA World title run we're talking here. He was then World Heavyweight Champion when he cashed in Money in the Bank in 2013. He was World Heavyweight Champion for 5 weeks? He was injured for half that time, so the TNA run was better than that one. And even the NXT Championship, he was champion for a month before he lost it right back to Breaker. So, even the TNA run was better than that one. I know he was I think he was Mega Champion, which is the AAA champion. Maybe that was Del Rio. I know Matt Riddle might be the current AAA champion. I don't fucking know, but maybe I think Dolph Ziggler was at one point too. But yeah, the TNA title run was actually very good. Dolph, he was champion in TNA for 6 months, and he had some really good matches with Eddie Edwards, Josh Alexander, Joe Hendry, even AJ Francis. I thought they had a good match at the Final Resolution show. Mustafa Ali on TV, Matt Cardona. Nick Nemeth was, he's obviously, it's not that he's not killing it now, but he just lost the belt. He was killing it at that point as world champion. So that was the world title run that he should have had in WWE, but he didn't. Obviously, now he's a bigger star in a smaller pond. He's a bigger fish in a smaller pond. But at least he finally got that run. It's better than nothing. His second question, did you notice how conflicted Hangman Adam Page looked when Christopher Daniels announced his retirement on Dynamite? I did notice that. People pointed that out to me. Yeah, it was cool to plant the seeds for a future face turn for Adam Page. I don't know how imminent that is, but it was nice that they, planted those seeds. And I think, honestly, the storytelling with Adam Page is the best storytelling they have ever had in AEW by a country fucking mile. Not even close. The storytelling with those guys, or specifically with Adam Page, is the best storytelling in AEW history. From the very beginning to have to work his way back up, the stuff with the Elite, them turning heel, him not turning heel, having to win the belt, the fallout, dark Hangman, cowboy Hangman. It's amazing. Hangman is going to start a redemption story. Fernando, thank you for joining us. Great to see you here in the chat. Appreciate your comments and questions always. Hope you're doing well. He also said Dolph Ziggler was brilliant as TNA champ, which I agree with. But yeah, Adam Page's redemption arc has been great, was great, is great. He's awesome. So anyway, what they're doing with Adam Page has my attention, which I can't really say for most of what we're getting right now in AEW. Ahmed said, GSM, do you think Triple H doesn't really care that much about SmackDown because the last 3 weeks the show has been boring, and it's unacceptable that if he's not putting the effort into the show, then have a new writer that will care for the show, write the show. Yeah, to me, I feel like Netflix is his baby right now. Triple H oversees both of the shows. So if we're going to praise him for Raw, we have to knock him for SmackDown, like you said. SmackDown the last couple weeks has been just like, what the fuck are we doing here? I know it's a 3-hour show and Raw's closer to 2.5 hours, but like SmackDown 1 should not be a 2-hour show or a 3-hour show. We said that on the stream on Saturday, and I've said that for weeks now. But second of all, they could do better with what they have. Even as a 3-hour show, you can make the shows better than what they've been for the last couple of weeks. So yes, he should appoint someone to SmackDown that could give it the care and attention that it deserves, get some fresh faces in the mix over there, make it make sense. 3 hours is hurting SmackDown, Fernando says. I completely agree. It's certainly not helping. That roster is not 3-hour worthy. It's not a 3-hour roster, let alone a 3-hour show. And I mean, there's some good highlights that they're giving the tag team division more time and whatnot. The women's mid card is getting more attention a little bit, but the creative is not great, and a lot of the shit just feels thrown together in an excuse to fill 3 hours, as opposed to actually delivering a substantial, meaningful 3-hour show. SmackDown has taken a real hit since it went to 3 hours, in my opinion. Last couple questions here from at UAgu, one of them. He said, what do you make of Nick Aldis' current run as SmackDown GM? I think Nick Aldis is awesome. He was one of those guys when we were talking earlier about Rumble surprises. I forgot to mention, Nick Aldis coming out in the Rumble would be cool, but I feel like they should save his in-ring return for like a bigger moment or storyline on SmackDown. But him being in the Rumble would be awesome, though. But him as SmackDown GM has been great. I think it was smarter to bring him in as an authority figure before they use him, hopefully, in the ring at some point, because he could still go. He has value in that role. I'm a big Nick Aldis fan, have been for a very long time, dating back to his early TNA British Invasion days. So seeing him do his thing in WWE has been great. As an on-air performer, he's been killing it. He's been knocking it out of the park since he debuted the first night, and he had that line towards Dom about, it's great. I'm a big fan of your father, and then he pulls his hand away. That was great. And he said that to Dominic Mysterio. Nick Aldis is very good. Millennial News said the AEW Women's Division is getting better, but where's Sakura Shida, Riho, Nyla Rose, Penelope Ford in Sky Blue? Sky Blue, I think, got hurt. Penelope Ford is on the show. She's feuding with, I think, Thunder Rosa right now. They're having a match on Collision next week. I don't give a fuck about Penelope Ford at this point, but to be fair, she is on the show. Nyla Rose, they're just not using her. Riho, I don't know. She's there. She's not there. I don't care. And Shida, I have no idea. Shida really should be on the show. And I like Shida a lot. I think Shida's great. She's kind of done all that she can do. She's gone for the TBS title a couple times, lost there, so I don't really know what more they could do with her at the moment, but I don't know why she's not on the show more now. They can give her a secondary storyline. They just haven't. They just don't care enough to, I guess. And at the average grunt from Twitter. Last two questions here. First one being, and he joined us in the chat a little bit earlier on, so we'll answer the question that he sent in yesterday for the show today before we get going here. He said, so I think we can all agree at this point that the current 4 pillars will likely never be the faces of AEW, aside from maybe MJF. So who do you think are the actual 4 pillars of AEW? And do you still consider MJF one of them, or has someone taken his place? For me, the 4 pillars, or as I prefer, the 4 aces of AEW are Will Ospreay, Swerve Strickland, Hangman Adam Page, and Jay White. That's a great question. He also said on top of that, on that note, can we agree that the 4 aces are a much better name for them than the 4 pillars? I'm sure they avoided calling them aces since New Japan only has their one ace, that being Hiroshi Tanahashi. And they didn't want to show up, or didn't want to show them up, but 4 aces work so well with their gambling motif. I agree. I like 4 pillars, but 4 aces of AEW, since they do have that gambling motif and have had that since the beginning, would be a great way to describe them. And Hiroshi Tanahashi is retiring, so they can kind of take that and use it for their own stuff. They're probably not going to change it at this point, but I can tell you this for certainty. Sammy Guevara, especially now in 2025, is abso-fucking-lutely not a four-pillar of that company. He's barely even on the fucking show, let alone a pillar of that promotion. Maybe a pillar of Ring of Honor, or Dark, or Rampage, or even Collision, but certainly not AEW on the whole. MJF is. Jack Perry, I wouldn't say so. And then who was the other one? Darby Allin is. Darby Allin, I would say, is a pillar. He's not there right now, but I would say he's a pillar. If I could change that, you're saying the four pillars, four aces, who would it be? Will Ospreay, Swerve Strickland, Hangman Adam Page, and Jay White. Those are good four ones. I would probably take Jay White out of there and put in MJF. MJF is still one of the biggest stars on that roster, still one of the brightest stars on that roster, and one of the best people on that roster in the mic and even in the ring. I feel like if Jay White and MJF were free tomorrow, if WWE had to take at least just one of them, if they could only take one, they would take MJF before Jay White. And Jay White's awesome. Jay White is great. Jay White is a consistent staple on AEW television, but MJF is just a bigger star, and even with the Jeff Jarrett shit, which sucks, MJF is still a bigger star in that show that you build around in AEW, even more than Jay White, who's in the main event, he's competing for the trios titles, he's not on the show. His booking has been very inconsistent, but MJF is pretty almost always towards the top of the card, if not involved in something towards the top of the card, with the exception of right now, I guess. Adam Page is definitely a pillar of that company, has been since the beginning. Swerve is and Ospreay is. So, I mean, you could say Omega as well, but Omega's not in his prime anymore, I would say. He's still amazing, obviously. But he gets hurt a lot. You know, he's not really the same focal point that he used to be. Ospreay's a consistent highlight. So is Swerve. Hangman. I love Jay White, but I would probably put MJF in there instead. So those are all the questions I got sent in. We'll go through the chat here real quickly before we head on off. I got to eat. I'm starting to get hungry for lunch. So let's see. Rusty says, I find it real interesting who Thunder Rosa named as her 3 dream opponents. That shit was funny. Tell me that you want to go to WWE without telling me that you want to go to WWE. I mean, she didn't even say Mercedes Moné. She didn't even say the woman who works in that company, in her company currently, as the TBS champion. She named 3 women that are in WWE, and they would all be great matches. But Thunder Rosa, I mean, come on. When you're free, when your deal is up with AEW, please try your hand at WWE. I don't know if it would work out that much better, but in AEW, they clearly do not have any plans for this woman. They don't give a fuck about Thunder Rosa at this point. She's not the shiny new toy. They haven't given a shit about her for a while. I know she faced Mariah May for the Women's World title at World's End. That was a quick filler program. They don't give a fuck about her, so I would like to see her try her hand at WWE. But yeah, that was a funny list that she gave it a little while ago. Fernando said, AEW shelves too much talent. I agree. They have too big of a roster at this point that they just don't know what to do with. And when I say they, I mean Tony Khan. Ahmed said, hot take, JBL's new character in the Indies is kind of moving me. I was a bit disappointed. We didn't see that character in WWE last week. Yeah, how fucking weird was it, by the way, that we saw JBL at Genesis clotheslining son of a bitches at that show? Not Joe Hendry, but was it Ryan Nemeth, Frankie Kazarian, whoever the fuck it was? He was out there doing like the last outlaw shit. And then he's out there on Raw the next night as typical old JBL on commentary for like 5 minutes. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? So, yeah, I would have liked to have seen that JBL on Raw. That's why I thought he would be on Raw potentially. He wasn't. He was just there as good old JBL on commentary. Whereas when he leaves WWE and he's not in WWE, he's doing like the outlaw shit. It's so fucking weird to me. But yeah, anyway, that would have been cool to see in WWE. In Dip, you said, yeah, to come in, do that shit in Dip, that would have been funny. Fernando said, never understood why Jack Perry and Sammy were considered pillars, because they were like brighter stars early on. Sammy especially was like towards the top of the card. Jack Perry was always in a tag team, so I'm not really sure why he was always a 4-pillar. Maybe because they saw him as an AEW original who had potential, and he does have potential. He was TNT champion for a couple of months, but he's just not, like, there's so many more people in that company I would rather see and could see as world champion before Jack Perry, who is good. He has potential, but he's not a pillar. There's so many more people, especially now in 2025, that are bigger pillars of that promotion, than Jack Perry. And Rusty said, you remember when Britt Baker was one of the 4 pillars? Yeah, good times. She was. I mean, she was a bigger pillar for that promotion than like Jack Perry and probably even Sammy was at that point, because Britt was such a big part of the show. And we are so far removed from that, she isn't even the 4 pillars of that promotion for the women. For the women, if you had to make 4 pillars for the women, it's probably, to me, Chris Statlander, Mercedes Moné, Toni Storm, and Mariah May. I would throw in Willow as well. Willow's awesome. But it would probably be those four. Maybe it's just a recency thing because they've just been in the women's division for so long. But Toni Storm's amazing, one of their best women's hires ever. Mercedes is doing better now, thankfully. Chris Statlander's great. Willow's great. And Mariah May is also making the most of her role. So those would probably be, that wasn't a question, just throwing it out there. Those would be my four pillars for the women. Or four aces, as Average Grun said. I'm an AW. Rusty said, thanks for helping me kill 2+ hours. Appreciate the stream, dude. Thank you, Rusty, for joining us since the start here today. Thank you to everyone who joined, sent in questions, joined us in the chat. Appreciate you guys so much more. Not more. What the fuck am I talking about? I appreciate you guys so much. Fernando said, hopefully Claudio defeats Jeff Jarrett on Dynamite. I think he will. Maybe MJF cost him the win. I would be surprised if Jarrett won and then got a title shot soon. They're probably saving that for down the road. Don't want to say that, but that's probably where we're going with it. But anyway, if you guys want to send in a question for next week's episode, post Royal Rumble episode, you could do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM. Find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/Graham.gsm.Matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Monday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below on the comment section on this very video if you're watching after the fact. And I'll answer your question next week here on the show. Thank you, Fernando. He says, fun stream. Thank you, Fernando, for joining us. Whether it be for 5 minutes or the complete 2 hours, I appreciate you guys a lot for making these things a lot of fun. Rusty also said, if Double J gets a world title shot, I'm going to die laughing. Yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. Trust me. I'm not even going to laugh because I just know it's coming, but it is definitely comical. I'll put it that way. So like I said at the beginning of the stream, we'll wrap up here. Few quick things. Obviously, shirts available, prowrestlingtees.com/WrestleRant. Support the show, support the brand, get a shirt. A few different designs available. If you want a shirt for free, you can enter and potentially win the Royal Rumble game. WrestleRant.com, sign up start tonight. You can either leave what numbers you want for the men's and women's pools, one per pool per person. You don't need a men's and no women's. You can get a men's and women's or just one if you want. It doesn't really matter. But the sign up start tonight at 8 p.m. So either tweet it to me or fucking, leave a comment on the post that I put on WrestleRant.com. Send it to me by owl mail or something. It doesn't really matter. But do it soon or do it as soon as it starts because people kind of tend to fill in the spots pretty fucking quickly. So if you want to take part in the game, let me know what numbers you want. As long as it's not a number that someone already has, then you're in. And if you win, either one or both, you win a free WrestleRant t-shirt. So just a heads up on that. Thursday here on the channel, I will be going live at some point, probably later on in the day on Thursday, closer to probably 4 or 5 Eastern once I fly in, settle in. We'll do WrestleRant Radio, Royal Rumble predictions. So join us then for some pre-Royal Rumble fun here on the channel. No SmackDown stream on Saturday reviewing SmackDown. I'll probably be at SmackDown, but I'll be at another event in Indy this weekend during Royal Rumble weekend. So no SmackDown stream on Friday. We'll have other content up instead. Hopefully some interviews as well. Whatever I can get from Friday. There's just a whole lot of people that go to these things now, so it's kind of harder to get interviews and whatnot, but we should get at least 1 or 2, and it should be up here on the channel hopefully this weekend, so keep an eye out for that. But that should about do it, guys. Royal Rumble game tonight, WrestleRant Radio live stream on Thursday, potentially some interviews coming this weekend, maybe some live reactions of whatever I can record. Probably not because I have no storage on my phone, but we'll see. And we'll be right back here on hashtag AskGSM around noon, 11 a.m., 1 p.m. Eastern next Tuesday here on the channel. So thank you so much as always. Rusty said, last couple comments here, said he should not be fighting for a world title in 2025. I agree. Alexis said, love you. Love you as well. Thank you for joining us, Alexis. Ahmed said, great, another stream. Glad to be here. Thank you so much, Ahmed. I appreciate it. Rusty said, see ya. See ya, Rusty. And Fernando said, enjoy SmackDown. I will. I will enjoy SmackDown. I will enjoy the Rumble on Saturday as well. I'll be there for that show. So you will not see me. I'll probably be in the press box, obviously. But I will say this. If you're watching SmackDown, or if you're watching the Rumble, rather, be sure to tune in to the post-show press conference. I should be in the room for it. I say that, and maybe there's a chance that I'm not, so I'm not going to promise anything. But if I'm there and get to ask a question, keep an ear out for you boys. So make sure to tune into that as well on the WWE social media channel. So, and Ahmed also said, SmackDown's boring lately, but I hope you have fun. Thank you, Ahmed. I appreciate it. I'll try not to fall asleep while I'm there. Thank you so much, folks. Have an awesome one, and I'll catch your guys' asses down the road. Enjoy the road to the Royal Rumble. Take care, guys.